I'm trying to channel season 1, episode 1 Robin. I have no idea how I'm succeeding.
I say I'm channeling Robin, but I gave up with shorts.
And yeah, this is the same timeline string from the last video. What about it?
Oh good, you can't even see it.
So, as you can probably tell from the title of this video, I am going to be breaking down the Robin Ted timeline. I was gonna call this 3 characters in the title timeline, but one of those is technically a spoiler. And also, because it's the Robin Ted timeline, I'm talking about who they're gonna end up with, so it's really 4 different characters. I'm going to be spoiling things as I go along, and as I go along I might reference things in the future or past or whatever. I plan on filming 1 season every day, so we will see if that happens. I'm back with another timeline video nobody asked for because I was rewatching How I Met Your Mother. One of my favorite shows, probably my favorite sitcom. Other than the last season, we will get to it. Again, I'm gonna spoil things all willy-nilly. If you have not seen the show, I really recommend watching it. In hindsight, the last season's gonna make you really sad, but it's only the last 2 episodes that are actually bad. This show is so good. I didn't even rewatch like the last 4 episodes when I made this script, hence why it's not finished and hence why it's been 2, 3, 4 months since I watched the show. Let's get into it. So something I almost didn't do for this video was explaining How I Met Your Mother as a show. So I have decided to add a bunch of different segments to talk about specific things I want to cover that aren't really covered in my bullet points between each season. So this one is before season 1, after my intro, and there will be ones between each season, and then of course my wrap up after the last season. This will make the video a lot longer than I originally thought it would be, but also it'll probably make the video much better. So you're welcome and I'm sorry. So How I Met Your Mother aired in 2005. Each season, as far as I am aware, takes place in the year that it comes out. So season 1 airs in 2005, takes place in 2005, season 2, 2006, etc. There's some continuities with that. Sometimes it'll be like a normal show, like a Disney Channel sitcom where like you come back and it's a new school semester and everyone's like, wow, let's talk about what we did this summer. Typically there's like some sort of recap. I'm pretty sure season 2 episode 1 has a recap of like, here's how the summer was. Other times it's just kind of like between seasons 2 and 3 it's like, oh, Robin's been in Argentina, so it hasn't changed but time has passed, so we're kind of like, we still are where we left off in the last season, but time has passed where it is now no longer the same year or whatever. How I Met Your Mother is a show about Ted Mosby, played by Josh Radnor. I'm not gonna pronounce anybody's names correctly, so I'm just gonna apologize for that now. Ted is a character who is desperately waiting to fall in love as we are watching him, but we are also watching through the lens of him telling his future kids about how he met their mother. So we know that he's going to find her. We know that things are gonna work out, and he is telling us the story of how he met her. It is a very long story that takes 9 seasons. We begin the series with Ted and 3 of his best friends. His best friend, Marshall, who he has known since college. Marshall is engaged to a girl named Lily, who they have also known since college. And the dynamic immediately is kind of like, they are the old married couple, he is the single guy. However, he is not the only single guy, and he's not like single guy stereotype, because that is Barney. Yeah. So the dynamic between the friends is basically Ted believes in love, wants to fall in love, is desperately waiting for his wife because he wants to have a wife and kids. That like is his whole purpose as a character, is to find that. Marshall and Lily get engaged in episode 1, and they are pretty much together the whole time. I really want to do a video on their relationship and their timeline because I think Marshall is one of the best characters on TV and he is consistently the same, and I think Lily isn't. When you're binging the show, it's kind of like, oh, she's a little inconsistent, but is she inconsistent and is she done justice? Talking about their dynamic, and specifically Lily as a character, would love to do as a video. That is not what I'm talking about today though, so for the purposes of this video, they are the married couple who are happy all the time. And then we have Barney. Barney is single, he wants to stay single, and that is where we start the show. There is another very important character who you will be introduced to in season 1, episode 1, and now we're just gonna cut to the timeline. I have 2 strings up right now. I don't think I'll need all of the strings, a string for each season. That would make sense, but this wall is only so tall and this bar is not a timeline, it is for towels, but I can't do towels there because I have this here. Now I'm gonna point out as I'm cutting these out, I have multiple pictures. Not each picture is its own episode. These are just like the bullet point events, but also not every bullet point event gets its own picture. You only need so many pictures of Ted. I mean, Lord of mercy, even his mother won't have as many pictures. All right, they're all cut out. let's get started. Season 1, episode 1, pilot. We start with our main character, Ted. He is complaining to his friends. Scratch that. He is only with Barney because Marshall and Lily are getting engaged. So Ted is complaining to his friend Barney, like, oh, I'm so ready to fall in love, and blah, 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 blah. And he turns and he sees this girl, Robin Shabatsky, played by Kobe Smulders. And she's talking to someone who we never see again, so they can't be important. And she like does this little laugh, and you're just like immediately in love with her, Kobe Smulders. I've loved you since I saw you as Agent Maria Hill in Avengers. Did my line fall? You think my observation skills would be better than this at this point, but no. Ted sees Robin and he's like, oh, I want to go talk to her. And Barney's like, then go talk to her. And he's like, I can't just go talk to her. And she like walks up to the bar and is like getting a drink. And he's like, how do I even talk to her? And Barney goes, hey, have you met Ted?
I'm gonna wait until she goes to the bathroom and I'll strategically place myself by the jukebox. So
Hi, have you met Ted?
Hi.
Let me guess. Ted.
And that is the beginning of the end of Robin's life. Barney has gotten him to talk to Robin. Then, and the rest of the episode, they go out on a date and they have a really good time. They're at this restaurant with some weird decor, like a blue French horn on the wall. Who does that? Ted chickens out on kissing her, and then she's doing the nose, and he like sees where she is and that she's gonna be on her way home soon, so he like heads back to her house, which like he dropped her off or something, I don't remember. And he like shows back up and the two of them are talking and it looks super great and like, aw, he's gonna start dating her. And then he says, I love you. One date in. One singular sensation. One single date and Ted said, I love you. Bad. Bad, bad, bad. It is looking bad for Ted. It is bad for Ted. You know what's also looking bad? Me and this lighting. We're persevering through and I'll figure it out tomorrow. Like they patch things up. He takes the blue French horn from the restaurant as a grand gesture and shows up on the street like, Robin! And she like leans out the window and he's like, hey, I've got this for you. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're an idiot. And the episode ends with, and that, kids, is how I met your Aunt Robin. He does not marry her sister. It is one of those like, we're friends. That's your Aunt Robin. Like that kind of shebang, Shabatsky. So she is now sort of a part of the friend group, but not really. I say that because it is in my notes for the next episode, that she's officially part of the friend group. Well, season 1, episode 2, the purple giraffe, aptly named so because this kid found it and he got trapped in a claw machine. Robin did a newscasting thing on it and Ted sees her on the news, runs freakishly fast there. This is the first one I'm showing to the computer. Oh sure, now it's time to be real. Now that I'm doing a crazy, okay, I'll get that in a second. He like meets her there and he's like, oh, it's so weird to run into you here. And then he's like, oh yeah, we're having a party, like you should come. And she's like, oh cool, I'll be there. And then she doesn't show up. And she calls and she's like, oh my gosh, Ted, I'm so sorry. I wish I'd been able to come. I wish your party was tonight. And he's like, oh, it is, it's a 2-night party. And then she doesn't show up again. And then he's like, oh, it's a 3-night party. And then Marshall's like making fun of him like the day after, like she didn't even show up. Where's Robin? Where's Robin? Well, Robin's already there. Anyways, now she's officially part of the group. Her and Ted are not together and she's kind of weirded out by the whole 3 parties, but she's also like weirdly charmed by it. You'll see that a lot from Ted and Robin, her just being like, he's so weirdly charming. And I'm like, no, it's a stalker. 3 episodes later, season 1, episode 5, okay, awesome. Ted goes to a club with Barney. Do I have a picture of the club? No. He meets, I have a picture of her, this girl, the check coat girl. We never hear from her again. Why include her, Abby? I think she is a dorkalicious character. I'm pretty sure this is that one lady who was on Glee. I think she's like a good idea of a character, like, oh, he met her, they're dating, it's cute. But like, it's not right and he breaks up with her. We have plenty of Ted relationships. I just think from season 1, it would have been nice to have followed up on characters like this. But instead it's kind of like Ted forgets about it. When you think about this show as the fact that this is Ted telling his kids, this is how I met your mom, and he's like introducing things that don't really follow through, that tracks. Coat check girl is on the timeline because I said so. Season 1, episode 10. This one's a big one. So the pineapple incident. Ted gets drunk, calls Robin a bunch, and then he wakes up the next morning and he can't remember everything, so his friends fill him in piece by piece. He recalls a whole bunch of stuff and he keeps thinking of calling Robin. 2 very important things. First of all, he wakes up with some girl, some brunette, in his bed. And second of all, he wakes up with a pineapple on his bedside table. And that's never solved. It is on the show How I Met Your Father. And we're not talking about that. Anyways, pineapple incident. So at one point they think, oh, the brunette in the bed is Robin. And like Ted and his little like dreamer heart are like, oh my gosh, the girl in the bed is Robin. It's not, it is a girl named Trudy. She comes back into play, hence why she is going on the board. Season 1, episode 11, The Limo, is New Year's. And Robin has a boyfriend and he's not gonna be there for her on New Year's Eve because he has to work. And that sucks so much. Because you know, how dare an adult have work? She says, well, Ted, maybe I'll just kiss you on New Year's. Like, that's our deal. We don't have anyone to kiss, even though she has a boyfriend. And it's like they've gone on 2 dates, but like still, commitment's commitment. They like shake on it, but then her boyfriend does show up. And she and Ted kiss anyways. I don't have a picture of them kissing. Not because that'd be weird, just because this is the picture that IMDb had. And I was going with mostly IMDb pictures. I'm gonna put this slightly under the pineapple incident. Just to save room, okay? Take a deep breath, it's gonna be fine. Season 1, episode 12, big episode, is called The Wedding. The whole gang is at the wedding of their friend. The only one not friends with them is Robin. So Robin's coming as Ted's date, but then Robin cancels on going with him because she got a news thing and she's telling Ted, she's like, it's fine, I won't go. Like, I promised I'd go with you to the wedding. And he's like, no, go. Being the supportive guy that he is, we love to say it. No. Anyways, he tries to get her to come to the wedding with him. She can't go, super sad. But at the wedding, we meet Victoria. Victoria is one of my favorite of Ted's girlfriends. We will talk about this when I do the ranking. There's 2 different versions of her, and I like this, the main version, best. And then we go into episode 13. Ted and Victoria have this whole like flirty thing. They have like a night of fun, but then she's like, no, we don't want to like get attached. And she doesn't even give him her real name. She goes by the name Buttercup, which, hello, Princess Bride. All flirty, and they go so far as to getting this close to each other's faces, but they do not kiss. She has him close his eyes and then she just leaves. And then he has to find her and he finds her and it's super cute and they start dating. Zip, zip, zip. We see Robin jealous of Victoria, and then we see Barney and Robin getting along as bros. Now, the as bros thing is one of those things that is probably kind of camp, but somehow this show really makes it work. Also, I was in a group chat where I got a bunch of guys to vote me in as an honorary bro, and I had that on my Instagram bio for a couple of years, so I'm not gonna knock it. Anyways, they do laser tag together. They get along super well, and like literally it's kind of like a bromance, but she's a girl. Okay, so I forgot to say this one on the timeline, even though I included it on the timeline. So during the time where Robin is uncomfortable and like hating on Victoria, the 2 of them go with Lily for wedding dress shopping because Lily's getting married to Marshall. We're super excited for them. And in season 1, episode 16, titled Cupcake, Victoria gets an offer to go to a culinary institute in Germany. I do mention this in the video that I recorded, but it's out of order. So I'm covering that now so that it's in order. Season 1, episode 18. So as we have discussed, Ted is dating Victoria. Ted is having some problems with his relationship. He keeps telling his kids, after it's midnight, just go to bed.
Your grandma always used to say to me, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. And she was right. When 2 a.m. rolls around, just go home and go to sleep.
Robin invites him over with innocent causes, but like you can see on her face, Colby Smulders, the actor that you are, you can see on her face that it is not with pure intentions. Ted ends up like, he like sees like Victoria all the places and she's like, why don't you call me, Ted? Why don't you do this, Ted? This episode is so well done. This moment.
Thanks for not calling me, and good night.
That's not your phone.
This isn't my phone.
Okay. Bye. I thought it was mine, so I answered it.
Was it?
It was your girlfriend. You might want to call her back.
Brilliant, love that. Anyways, he goes over to Robin's and then like he cheats on Victoria being like, I'll break up with you later. Yeah, bad. Anyways, nothing good happens at 2 a.m. has big consequences for the rest of the season because Ted cheats on Victoria, lies to Robin about the fact that he broke up with Victoria, so then Robin gets mad at him, so he and Victoria break up, obviously. I don't know if he tells her about Robin, but I'm pretty sure she knows. Robin is mad at Ted for lying to her because Victoria called and she's like, it's your girlfriend. And they stop being friends. We will get back to that. Season 1, episode 19, Mary the Paralegal, is a whole episode of Ted and Robin making each other jealous. It is a bunch of nonsense, but Robin gets a little bored and she mentions all of her friends except for Ted because they are not talking. It is a funny episode. I'm not really going to talk about the episode that much. But that is just my reminder of there is an era, multiple episodes, where her and Ted are not friends. Season 1, episode 22. We are almost there for the season. Ted makes a grand gesture. He gets the blue orchestra, a whole freaking blue orchestra, as a grand romantic gesture to try to get her back. We're gonna do the end of season 1 over here. Does this whole thing to try and get her back. And she's like, oh my gosh, you always do things 110%. I don't know if I can do a relationship with you. So they talk about it and they, like, you're kind of sitting there like, yeah, maybe they shouldn't be in a relationship, but like also you've spent the whole season wanting him to get together with her. So they're like fighting and bickering, but they do end up together. And that is where we end season 1. One other thing that I did not do is after the coat check girl, we have an episode where we talk about a woman in a provocative pumpkin costume. I'm not saying certain words because A, I'm Christian, and B, I do not want to be demonetized. Ted is waiting for her. This is an episode thing that ties back seasons later, like that comes back again. It's basically another episode of Ted being desperate, so we're gonna put that here. Here's the timeline so far. Because of Barney and have you met Ted? Ted meets Robin, the girl he saw earlier and really likes. They go on a date. Ted chickens out of kissing her. Ted goes back. Ted says, I love you. And they're like, what? But they still end up being friends. Ted stalks Robin here. That's not good. That is your red flag. Take notes. Evan hosts 3 parties just for Robin to come over. But she's officially a part of the group and she likes Lily and she wants to be friends with her. I think Lily says that in episode 1. She's like, I like this girl, don't ruin it. That comes back, if I remember to edit it in. Then Ted has a couple other episodes where we're not focused on Robin, but Robin is talked about a lot because Ted is one-track minded. We have the coat check girl and the aforementioned pumpkin woman. Then we have the pineapple incident where we think he's actually gotten together with Robin, but he has actually gotten together with Trudy, who will come back. I do not remember how. Ted invites Robin to a wedding. And they're super excited to go together. She gets a call to be like an actual on-air news anchor, which is like her whole thing. She really wants to be an actual news anchor. So she goes and does that instead. Ted goes alone, meets Victoria. Him and Victoria spend the night together, but not like that. And then they leave without actually having met, but then they actually start dating because he finds her because he's cute and romantic like that. Robin is very mad about Victoria and does not like Victoria, publicly to her face, but like in a sitcom way where Victoria doesn't realize it. Also, Victoria's kind of precious. Like, she believes the best in people, you know? She does not see it. During her angst against Victoria, she and Barney start to get along and they go do laser tag and it's super fun for the two of them. However, Ted cheats on Victoria with Robin. He and Victoria break up, and then he and Robin are no longer friends and they start bickering. But Ted makes a grand romantic gesture with the blue orchestra and they get together at the end of the season. That is season 1 of How I Met Your Mother. That's only season 1. All right, so there was something I forgot from season 1. So in season 1, episode 15, we get a flashback about Barney. He used to look like this. This is his evil backstory, and it is important to him as a character, so it's going up on there. And if you don't know why Barney is important, keep watching, you'll get there. All right, now that we're done with season 1, let's talk about the formula of the show, the basic layout of what this show is, and where our characters are. So the basic formula of How I Met Your Mother is our main character, Ted, is trying to find the love of his life, and he will date different people to get there. Season 1, his main love interest is Robin, who is also a main character in her own rights, and there's a little bit of a dynamic, well, obviously there's more than a little bit of a dynamic since this video is called the Robin Ted timeline. There's differences in those characters and how they interact with each other, specifically with Ted and Robin and a third character who we will talk about, but for the most part, just think of it as this is like his B plot. Like, she's there consistently as a part of Ted's story, but she is not who the story is always about. Ted will meet other people, as referenced in season 1. Sometimes it is a 1 episode person, look at Coat Check Girl. Sometimes there's just like one girl for 1 episode, and other times it'll be like a long arc where he is dating someone. Why does the B-reel keep going off in the middle of this video? So where we leave off at the end of the show is Ted and Robin are together. Now, if you've been paying attention, there's obviously not a perfect couple here. Plus, in the first episode, he says Aunt Robin, so we already know as an audience that Robin is not in game in this situation. So Ted will be dating different people. Sometimes it'll be one-off, like the Coat Check Girl. Other times it'll be a serious arc. We will get into it, and I will later be ranking Ted's serious girlfriends. Coat Check Girl will not be included. That is pretty much the dynamic of the show. It is about him living his life, wanting to find the mother. Now, I will say, throughout the course of the show, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that he's trying to find the mother, or Ted in general, and this is because other characters became, in my opinion, more interesting than Ted. Robin specifically, and another character that we will get into. It's interesting. We lose sight of Ted as the main plot line, even though the show is called How I Met Your Mother and it's about Ted. Sometimes the show stops being about Ted for half a season. So then we get back to Ted and it's kind of like, wow, he's kind of depressed about the fact that he's not married. How long has he been like this? When was the last time we saw Ted? Like, he's been in the episodes, but like, has he? But also, again, I really like this show. I don't think that's a bad thing per se. It is just a fact that despite the fact that this show is about Ted, sometimes he takes a back seat to his own plot. Now, it's when he's taking a back seat to Marshall and Lily that it's really like, okay, I do care about your plot lines, but there's only a handful of Marshall Lily plot lines that like actually are worth being the A plot for a season. That being said, I don't know if they actually got the A plot of a season at any point. I know that Robin and another character do for a fact. So all of that to summarize, for How I Met Your Mother, the basic point is Ted finding his wife. And where we have left off with our characters now and the dynamic that we are leaving is Ted loves Robin doesn't really love Ted, or Robin loves Ted but Ted doesn't love Robin. It goes back and forth for a couple seasons, and then sometimes they don't love each other at all, or they do love each other but then they don't know, and it's a whole mess, and that's why we're making this video. Lily and Marshall are just the married couple who are happy for the most part. They're not always happy. In fact, season 1 does this really well, where Ted and Robin get together and you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna end on a series high. And then Ted goes home, high spirits, and Lily left. And she and Marshall broke up. Abby, you said that they are just the happy married couple, and that's because they mostly are, except for the fact that there is 9 seasons of this show, so every so often they'll be like, but what if they were unhappy? But just kidding, it's Lily and Marshall. We will do a video on them at some point, but we are not here to talk about them right now. And then Barney is just happy single guy until he gets his own plot line. We'll get into it.
All right, I'm going for She Could Host the News. Notice how I'm not representing Ted in this relationship yet? Either because I don't have his wardrobe or because I don't want to. You decide. Should I talk about the different characters in this show? Ted is one of the best characters on TV, and then like a season later he's like one of the worst characters on TV. I think the show just went on too long for his character development, because then it's like he's stunted, he's growing, he's stunted. Anyways, season 2 is pretty short on Robin Ted plotline. They are dating for the entirety of the season, so there's not much to say. The first thing that happens is in the episode Slap Bet. Oh, I could do a video just on the slap bets, let's be so for real. Robin has a secret, and they think it's that she secretly has a husband in Canada, and she says that's what it is. And her secret involves the mall. They think that she got married at a mall in Canada, when really she was a teenage pop star in Canada. That is Robin's secret. That is here on the timeline. But Ted is super disrespectful of the fact that she has a secret. He's like, no, come on. And it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, he's being funny, but like this could be like genuine trauma. And it plays as a like, hey, she has genuine trauma about this thing she doesn't want to share with you. And then it's just she's a teenage pop star because it's a sitcom. But like, what if it had been serious? This show is really good at being like, hey, they're not right for each other. Like, they love each other. They're not right for each other. It also does that in season 8, but not for Ted and Robin, which we will talk about. That's fine. Season 2, episode 16, Stuff. Robin gets mad at Ted because he has a bunch of stuff from his exes. So she makes him get rid of all of his stuff. And then Ted finds out that all of her dogs, she has 3 or 4, I don't remember, 5? How many dogs does she have? All of her dogs have been given to her by her exes. And he's like, that's not fair. I had to get rid of all my stuff. You should have to get rid of all of your stuff. And she's like, well, that's not fair. They're living creatures. And he's like, I feel as weirded out as you feel. Why is that not fair? Robin actually does get rid of her dogs. She sends them to live on a farm upstate. Legitimately, they are living with her aunt upstate. It's okay, no dogs were killed. During this episode, I cannot say for the rest of the show because I do not remember. Anyways, Ted had gotten all of his stuff back. And the two of them start bickering at like, how could you got rid of all your stuff, but you didn't even really get rid of it because now you have it back. Like, were you just not getting rid of it because you thought we were gonna break up? And then the two decide, let's move in together. They're great at decision making. Just like the creators of the show are great at season finales. I don't have issues. Season 2, episode 18, I do not have one for this. This is just them deciding, hey, like, we're moving in together, and all of their friends being like, it's a bad idea you two living in the same house. It's a bad idea you two living in the same house. I've never heard anything more true. It's a terrible idea. She's gonna kill you. Like, the signs are there, like, she doesn't like him living there. And she has all of her stuff, so she doesn't want to get rid of her stuff to fit his stuff, so then all of his stuff is sitting in storage, but like also, it's a whole shebang. So they decide not to move in together, and we move forward to season 2, episode 21 and episode 22. It's kind of like a part 1, part 2 thing. We are at Marshall and Lily's wedding. They are at the wedding and they're saying like, yeah, we'll tell them eventually. And Barney, being Barney, is like, we'll tell them what eventually? What are we gonna tell them eventually? What do you have to tell us? What do you have to tell us? And so they keep giving him like snippets of the story where they're like, oh yeah, we didn't move in together. You know this. And the story ends with all 4 of them sitting and talking about blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And Ted and Robin reveal that they broke up. So they dated for the entire season. They gave me very little to put on here, which is good because I have 6 more seasons of this show. I have 7 more seasons of the show. This is a 9-season show. And at the end of the season, Robin, who was offered a job in Argentina, is now in Argentina because of the job she was offered in Argentina. So they break up. She goes to Argentina. That's it. That's them. They dated. They broke up. The whole season with them dating is an interesting one because I love Robin. I love Ted. Not a fan of Ted and Robin. It's one of those things where like the writers write it in because they knew where they were trying to go with the ending. And so they really wanted to write it right person, wrong time. But I disagree. I think they're really good friends, but like they don't get along living together. I know they live together later and they get along, but like it's a whole thing. So recap of season 2. It won't be much. Robin and Ted are dating. She tells him about the Robin Sparkles thing, even though he was not being a gentleman about it. Robin gets mad because he has a bunch of stuff from his exes. Robin makes Ted get rid of all of his stuff from his exes. She gets rid of her dogs, which are from her exes, but then she finds out that he kept his stuff. The 2 start bickering and then they decide to move in together. The 2 break up and the 2 tell everyone that they broke up at Lily and Marshall's wedding. Now Robin is going to Argentina and the 2 are sad because they have broken up. All right, now that Robin and Ted have officially broken up, let's talk about their relationship for a little bit. I've been just doing like bullet points because this video is going to be super long, but I do need to actually talk about the characters and the relationship and like what makes it what it is. It kind of shows at the beginning of season 2 what the relationship is. Again, we start the season and we ended last season with Lily having left. So when we start season 2, she's just been gone. And now Robin and Ted have dated for a whole summer. But like it's been like this awkward summer where like they're tiptoeing around Marshall and like we don't want to show that we're happy because you're really sad, but like also we're really happy. So like it's a summer of highs and lows for Ted. We mostly focus on the highs. That being said, because we're only focusing on the highs, Robin and Ted haven't actually gotten into the depth of their relationship and like, are they actually going to work as a couple? Which is what we spend season 2 doing, going, are they actually going to work as a couple? That's one of the reasons I think the Robin Sparkles thing is so important, not just to Robin, but just like in general. It's the first cracks I think we get to see forming in the relationship of her being like, hey, this is something I don't want to talk about and you're not respecting me. I don't know if I can deal with that. And him being like, you're hiding something from me and it's making me crazy. I don't know if I can deal with that. They just don't need to be in a relationship with each other or with anyone, but that's a whole different story. When we get down to the crux of why Ted and Robin just don't work, at least in this point of the timeline, the problem is on both of them, and it is the same problem for both of them. They are both too stubborn and will not let go of what they have envisioned as their ideal future. Robin is wholly independent. She's not used to being tied down to another person, which is why the fact that she'd even agree to date a guy like Ted, who is so, I want to get married and have a future and kids. She thought that would mesh? No, it doesn't mesh. It doesn't fit what she thinks she wants. She is very independent. And she's so independent that she is consistently putting her job first. In fact, that's something that she later works past with a completely different relationship where she says, actually, I want to put the guy first over my job because I want to be happy. I want to experience that. I want to have that person. We will get into that relationship for her. But Ted has the same problem, but not with independence. And I'm the same kind of person, so I'm not really judging him. I'm just admitting that it's a flaw. He has the picture in his head. He says, I want to live in New York. I want to have a wife and kids. Robin doesn't want kids. Robin wants to travel to Argentina. It's kind of the same reason that he and Victoria should have broken up before she left for Germany, which does not make what happens at 2 a.m. okay, but it's kind of showing, hey, he wasn't okay with her going to Germany, but he let her go out of love and appreciation of that is her job and he should let her go. He and Victoria had things in common to where them not breaking up and trying to do long distance makes sense. I'm not 100% certain if the show ever says that Victoria wants to get married and have kids, but like, it's implied. She's dating Ted. Most everyone who dates Ted, aside from Robin, wants to have kids and get married relatively soon. So it makes sense that he would try for Victoria. It also makes sense that he and Robin would agree to break up before she even leaves for Argentina. That being said, they should have broken up sooner. Because, again, I feel like when you're dating someone, and I've dated one person for a month in high school, and I was homeschooled, so what do I know? That being said, from what I've heard and what I've read in Jonathan Pecluda's book, Outdated, you really should know sooner than a whole summer if that person is going to be someone you want to continue to pursue when it comes to things like, do you want to have kids or even get married in the first place, Robin? So it really, she was too independent to let go of staying in New York for her job. I mean, she ends up having a great career in New York until the last couple episodes of the show, but whatever. But Robin can't let go of the fact that there's an opportunity out there somewhere, and she's going to chase that opportunity instead of trying to find opportunity here. Ted can't let go of the fact that, but no, I live in New York. I can't leave New York. I realize that how I've talked about Ted in this video makes it sound like I don't like Ted. Ted is a great guy. But because Ted is our main character, his flaws are all up front and center. Anyway, season 3.
Dun, dun, dun. Nothing suits me like a suit.
Alright, so it's been a couple days since I filmed last because I was trying to edit the first segments. Also, I had to spend some time in a robot costume and a spaceman costume. I am using real tape now because I've used multiple pieces on all of these and they still barely stay up. Season 3. Remember, Robin is in Argentina. Her and Ted have broken up. That is where we are. Season 3 is probably one of my favorites. It is like the instigator of what happens throughout the rest of the seasons. This is another relatively light season on plot because the next season gets more characters involved. Again, I've been saying we'll get to it, another character we'll talk about. We are about to get there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll understand soon. We start season 3 with season 3, episode 1. Wait for it.
It's gonna be legend. Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Wait for it. And I hope you're not lactose intolerant because the second half of that word is dairy.
Robin comes back to Argentina with her new boyfriend, Gael, whose name I have written like this so that I remember how to pronounce it. She comes back with Gael and Ted he literally goes bar hopping with this girl whose name I did not write down. I will only refer to her as Mandy Moore. And while he is out with her, he may or may not come back from the night and he's like, oh my gosh, we almost did something so risky. We almost got tattoos. Wouldn't that have been crazy? And it turns around, he got a tattoo. And this is one of those things that I'm like, oh, it's kind of funny, but it wouldn't end up in the timeline. But y'all who know, y'all know. It's on the timeline for a reason. Oh, I just realized I'm definitely gonna need another string soon. Robin's happy with Gael, and Ted's obviously not happy. Ted goes to Robin, and he talks to her, he confronts her. I'm gonna play the scene because I really like this scene.
Look, us breaking up, it was the right thing. But it took some time to get over you, you know? I'm still getting over you. But you were over it the minute they started the in-flight movie.
Over it? My first 3 days in Argentina, I cried my eyes out. I missed you so much. I wanted to go and prove how adventurous I am, but the truth is, it was really lonely. And that's why Gael happened.
You weren't trying to win the breakup?
I was trying to survive it.
And that is where Ted and Robin are before episode 2. Season 3, episode 2, we're not from here. Robin breaks up with her Argentinian boyfriend, Gael, because he has invited a bunch of people to her apartment to stay for however long they want. And they are not nice house guests, and then she kind of has a conversation with herself, a la Ted seeing Victoria in the bathroom, and is like, honestly, He was a rebound boyfriend, let's go. All right, now that Robin has broken up with her Argentinian boyfriend, she gets a new boyfriend 2 episodes later. He is 1 episode guy, which I'm not gonna include a lot of the 1 episode guys and girls from here on out unless they are actually important. This one I consider important to Robin as a character. She dates a guy who has a son, and you know Robin, she's not really wanting kids. She kind of comes around to the idea of having kids in this episode. It's more for comedic reasons because like the kid draws a picture and she's like, oh my gosh, he thinks I'm his new mom, that's so embarrassing, and blah, 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 blah. And then she's kind of like, wait, the kid likes me? I can be likable. But then the dad was dating 2 people at once and yeah, he didn't actually like her. I'm putting that slightly under Gael because again, it's not important. And we're saving space on the timeline. Season 3, episode 9, Slaps Giving, Slaps Giving. If you know what musical theater show that riff is from, I love you. Ted and Robin sleep together. And then they're kind of like, ooh, we can't be friends anymore. And then Ted tells us, yeah, when we were dating, we had this thing we do where people would be like, well, I don't know, I think that we just have a general agreement that, and then Ted and Robin would go, general agreement?
Everyone knows that. It's like general knowledge.
General knowledge?
She's actually still condone corporal punishment. Corporal punishment?
I got a kernel stuck in my teeth.
Colonel stuck in my teeth.
They say, we can't be friends anymore, and it's like a very tense Thanksgiving. Poor Lily, who was trying to host it. And then someone says something, and
It's really a major buzzkill.
Major buzzkill.
anyways, so they're not friends again. They're chill. But the door has officially been closed on the will they, won't they, Robin Ted for the season. So why is there more to add to the timeline? We'll get there. Season 3, episode 13, the aforementioned butterfly tattoo needs to get removal. And this is Ted's doctor. Her name is Stella. And she's great. We love Stella. And that's not sarcasm. I think she's a great character. Right now, we'll get into that the next season. Ted meets Stella. He has 10 sessions with her, and he has 10 sessions to convince her to date him. Also, Stella's receptionist is Britney Spears. Her name is Abby. Great name. Love that for her. And she's obsessed with Ted, but then Ted starts dating Stella. He keeps asking, she keeps saying no, and she's like, again, everyone's so charmed by Ted. She's kind of like, haha, no, like I can't, blah, blah, blah. And gets to the 10th session, and he asks again, and she says no, and he figures it out in his head. Oh, she's so busy. She literally doesn't have time today. She also has a kid. But like, she was like, yeah, my last relationship was messy. I have a kid. I'm busy. I like you, but no. He ends up being like, I can speed run a date in 3 minutes during your lunch break. And he does it, and it's romantic, and then the two get together. And yeah, now they are together, and I have a picture of Ted screaming in pain up on the timeline. Season 3, episode 16. Buckle your seatbelts. Robin's ex from Canada comes to America, and Robin is talking to her friends, and she's like, yeah, like who's gonna have one? Like, I'm a successful newscaster. I look like this, blah, 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 blah. He shows up and he's like, a guy in his 40s who's not allowed near his school. That's the vibe. And she's immediately like, oh my gosh, he won the breakup. And her friends are like, are you serious? Anyways, she goes completely, this is my first love, I'm going crazy over him. And then he breaks up with her again in the same way. And she's like literally sitting at the bar like crying. And we get this scene.
All right, I can't find your video. I wasted 3 days.
What's the matter?
Simon dumped me in his van after the show.
Yeah, right. That was like 10 years ago.
No, tonight.
Oh, really? Oh, come here. Come here.
When I was young, I was so vulnerable and open to things, you know?
You were totally lame back then.
But now, come on, pal. You're the most awesome person I have ever known.
You are way more awesome than Simon ever will be.
Barney, do you want to come back to my place?
Your place?
So the thing that Robin whispers there that the clip I got from TikTok doesn't show and is continuing is another Robin Sparkles music video. This one's called Sandcastles in the Sand. It's her moody piece. And the two of them watch it, and then...
And so they watched it again, and again, and again. But finally...
Yeah, that is Robin and Barney together. So when I say there's a third person who gets added to this timeline, hi, he was here all along. Season 3, episode 17, The Goat. Barney spends the whole episode freaking out about how to tell Ted. You feel really bad for Barney because like he's genuinely stressed out about it and Robin's acting cool and she's fine and she's like, dude, why are you freaking out? Like, it doesn't matter, it's fine. He's like, that's my best friend. You're his ex, this is a big deal. And then Ted tells Barney he knows. And he like punches him, which is the picture I have. He says, Barney, we're not friends anymore. Season 3, episode 19, this one does not go up on the timeline, not because I'm running out of space, but because it's kind of like continuing the Barney-Ted plot. Barney runs into Abby, Stella's receptionist, and she's like, Ted, I hate Ted and his perfect hair. And so Barney's like, hey, what if we got together with a plan to make Ted mad? So the two of them pretend to be like the dorky happy couple to make Ted jealous, and Barney, as a part of the bit, proposes to her, and she does not get that it is a bit. It's pretty funny. Also, at the end of this episode, Stella and Ted fight, and Ted basically breaks up with her, and then Ted gets hit by a car. This is a random tangent, but I'm reading Persuasion by Jane Austen, so spoilers for Persuasion by Jane Austen. It's a classic lit book, and so it's like, oh, the group's all going on a stroll, and blah 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 blah, and guy love interest is with girl who's not main character, and she's like too tired to walk down from somewhere, so he's like, okay, like jump and I'll catch you. And so she does. He catches her and she's like, oh, what fun, I must do it again. And so she runs back up, and while she runs back up, she jumps, she doesn't land near him, and then she gets a concussion. We just went from it's fun to oh my gosh, is she dead? That's what this is giving. It's giving things are crazy, and we had this silly little goofy plot with Britney Spears, and now Ted's been in a car accident. Anyways, the reason Ted and Stella have broken up in this case, Stella invites Ted to a wedding in October, and it's like March right now, and he's like, that's 7 months away. And he's like, I can't go with you to the wedding. And she's like, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And he's like, no, like it is a big deal. And that's basically him breaking up with her, but we'll get into it. Season 3, episode 20, Miracles. Ted is in the accident. Stella rushes to the hospital to see him. Her and Ted are kind of like, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 forgiven. In Ted's eyes, he and Stella get back together. Stella goes out to the hallway and she's talking with Ted and his friends. She's like, oh, I'm so glad y'all got back together. She being Lily. And Stella's like, back together, what do you mean? She didn't know he was breaking up with her. And then she gets mad that he was trying to break up with her. Also, the car accident, like he's fine. Like there's not even a cast on him. He's just like a little cut up. He's fine. Not to make light of his accident, but there's worse in this episode. So then Stella gets mad at Ted and she just leaves. She's like, you know what? Don't. And then like leaves. Ted calls his emergency contact. And like the episode starts like this. They say something like, oh, did you call Barney? And Ted's like, no, we're not friends, why would I call Barney? Well, then one of them calls Barney and he just goes, okay, and he hangs up.
He's been in a car accident. He's at St. Anthony's Hospital. Everything's...
You hung up, didn't you?
Yeah.
See, I told you, we're not friends anymore.
미안해요, 가요 돼요. I'm coming, Ted. I made it.
And that's how Regina George died.
They all rush to see him. He's in a full body cast. So Ted and Barney make up. They are now friends again. Two things at the end of this. My favorite, they ask...
This is pretty much everything you love, right? Yeah, pretty much.
I love them, Your Honor. That's not the main thing that the season ends with. We'll talk about the main thing right now. But I really like that moment, just letting you know. I like that moment so much that I didn't put the actual major plot point that happened in this episode on my list. And then when I was on IMDb, I was like, oh yeah, I should add that. Ted goes to find Stella to apologize. And then he proposes. So we end the season with Ted engaged to Stella, who we like. This show, I'm just gonna say this now, this show does a really good job of being like, girl who's good for Ted, girl who's good for Ted, girl who's good for Ted. And then like as soon as they need to, they're kind of like, reasons they should break up, reasons they should break up, reasons they should break up, they broke up. So Ted is now engaged. I filled up 2 parts of my timeline. This is gonna be wild. Reviewing season 3. Okay. Robin comes back from Argentina with an Argentinian boyfriend, Gael. Ted, in an effort to also be 30, flirty, and thriving, goes out with Mandy Moore. Robin gets fed up with Gael because he keeps inviting people over. Robin dates a guy who has a kid, which is a big moment of growth for her. It doesn't like project your character forward, but like it sets it up. Robin and Ted sleep together, and then they're like, we can't be friends anymore. And then that episode, they're kind of like general agreement, and then they decide they can be friends. Meet Stella, and in his 10 sessions, he does not convince her to date him. It is his persistence of, I can make this work, that gets her to date him. He's very persistent, which sounds like a bad thing, but when you watch the show, you're not mad. You're not like, oh, he's creepy. You're like, oh, it's fine. Robin meets back up with her ex. He dumps her again, and in consoling her, Barney and Robin end up doing the do. Barney freaks out about how to tell Ted that he has slept with Robin. Ted already knows, he figures it out, and decides he and Barney cannot be friends anymore. Ted gets hit by a truck. Barney also gets hit by a truck, and then we end the season with Ted and Stella engaged. That's season 3, y'all. I'm trying something new with my shots, so give me some grace here. If you have been paying attention up until now of my recap of the show and characters, and everything I've said, you might have noticed a severe lack of Barney. This is the reason. He is important to the plot, and he is one of the 3 characters I would have put in the title if it wasn't technically a spoiler, but like also, the show's been out for a while now, and it has a spin-off, so like, if you knew, you knew. That being said, I have a lot to say about Barney. So Barney is a character who is kind of made to be hated. There's some characters that do this really well. I'll put some examples on the screen because I'm filming this off the top of my head and don't have any. He's a decent person, but like also, he has the worst conscience of the group. He doesn't tell anyone what he does for a job, and it's kind of implied that it's for seedy reasons. He literally sleeps around with anyone, will coerce them into sleeping with him for any reason. He is the worst person on this show. That being said, I believe in redemption. And that's not just me as a Christian being like, I believe in the redemption power of Jesus Christ. Like, I do, but I believe that a bad character can be made better. It's one of the reasons I get really frustrated with J.K. Rowling. Why is Draco just a Death Eater now? Why is there no payoff for that? Like in the 6th movie, why is he crying in the bathroom if there's no, hey, he really regrets what he's doing and he's gonna change now? Like, characters that don't get good redemption tick me off. Barney Stinson is not one of those characters. Now again, there's 9 seasons of this show, and we're in season 3. The writers are gonna do some things that kind of make you, wait, is he redeemable? But for the most part, I think they do a pretty good job. Again, Robin and Barney get together because he had a genuine moment of caring for her as a friend. I think that's a good sign. I think that's a good start. I think the fact that Barney was literally sweating bullets, and I know it's mostly played for comedy, but like literally looking like he's about to have a panic attack because he has to tell his best friend that he slept with his best friend's ex. He has a conscience, which is not something we could say of season 1 Barney. So the fact that he has changed this far, and you know that there's 9 seasons of the show, kind of makes you think, okay, well maybe he could be redeemable. And again, that ending moment of just him and like you think about the person you love, and he like glances at Robin, and then the camera shows us Robin to confirm that's what he's thinking of.
cinema. But I think that's a really good moment of TV. I like that moment. I really like this show. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't. I think Barney is a great character for a redemption arc, and I think the show handles him fairly well. But a majority of his redemption arc is based around Robin, which that brings up a whole, well, is it really redemption if he's only doing it for Robin, or does he actually want to be redeemed? But it does come down to, and this is sort of spoilers for later seasons, where like he has those moments of like, no, like, this is what I want to settle down. I mean, it's not just Robin. Robin's not the only serious love interest he gets, which I think kind of sucks because you're kind of like, wait, but he was in love with Robin. Now Robin's in love with him, but he's dating someone else and blah, blah, blah. But again, 9 seasons, you gotta fill the plot somewhere. And when it's mostly relationship stuff, you expect stuff like this to happen. That being said, the girlfriends he gets, I like. Do we have more 2 a.m. episodes? Yes. We will get into the whole, they cheated, but then they ended up together, so it's fine. No, it's not. Cheating is cheating. Please read Outdated by Jonathan Pekluda, not a sponsor. That is my rant about Barney for the time being. There'll be more to say about him, but again, as it comes up, we'll get into it. I can't even go into how the show ends because the entire last season is a spoiler. So let's just go ahead and talk about season 4.
I'd like to point out 2 things. Number 1, I re-downloaded Threads because I had a thought that I wanted to share on Threads and realized that like half of the threads I have made are about How I Met Your Mother. So follow me on Threads, apparently. Also, I'm rewatching A Series of Unfortunate Events, the show. I already rewatched the movie this year. Yo, we got Kobe Smulders and Neil Patrick Harris on this show. Love that for me. Kobe Smulders being on that show is actually what made me finish watching the show the first time through. Okay, season 4, episode 1. Do I know you? So this is post Ted and Stella engagement. We're kind of wrapping up the engagement here. I might be wrong on this. I think season 3 ends with like a "will you marry me?" and then we cut to black and that's how the season ends. And so then we start the season with her saying yes. But again, I didn't write down the Ted plotline because I was too busy focusing on Barney and Robin. We'll get there. We'll talk about it. Notes for Barney and Robin on this episode. Barney tells Lily that he's in love with Robin. You know Lily. Actually, you might not know Lily. I haven't talked about her much in this video. If you know Lily, you know that she can't keep a secret. So this is great. It's like Chekhov's gun of when is Lily gonna reveal to Robin that Barney is in love with her. Beep beep. All right, straighten the camera. I'm sorry for continuity. That's Lily. She now knows that Barney is in love with Robin. There's a lot going on in the season and a lot of it's just continuing, or we'll get there, or we'll talk about it when we do. So like some of it I have written down, some of it I don't. A lot of Ted and Stella stuff I don't have written down because it's just like, do they actually work as a couple? Yeah, I love you. Let me reaffirm my commitment. Like again and again. This episode's version of that is Stella has not seen Star Wars. She's like, I don't get it, but I will lie because I love him. Anyways, Barney tells Lily he's in love with Robin. Lily sets up a date, like a, oh, you two should have dinner kind of thing. And Barney almost tells Robin that he has feelings for her, but he doesn't. That is the first episode of season 4. Woohoo. Season 4, episode 3, I Heart NJ, which is New Jersey, I know. Ted hates New Jersey. New York, baby! Shout out Maddie and Christian, my 2 friends who keep saying New York, baby. He's like, yeah, I love New York, hate New Jersey. She lives in New Jersey, and she has a kid who's in school in New Jersey. So guess what, Ted? You marry Stella, you move into New Jersey. Season 4, episode 4, Intervention. It's a whole running gag where they keep posting interventions like, we need to talk about the big hat, Marshall. Ted finds a series of letters from his friends telling him they think they're moving too quickly. Again, this is not going on the timeline because it's a minor thing, but I am mentioning it. They ended up not having the intervention, but he finds the letters and he kind of gets upset with them. Season 4, episode 5, the wedding's in 3 weeks because Stella knows had a cancellation and everything was paid for, and she's talking to Stella and Ted about this, and Stella and Ted like have this like shared look of like, we should help her out, and Ted's like, yeah, we'll pay for dinner, and Stella out loud says, yes, we'll get married in 3 weeks and you can have our wedding date. Barney is planning on going for Robin at the wedding. Stella tells Ted that Robin isn't welcome at their wedding. She's weirded out by the fact that he even wants her there. Ted tells Stella, hey, she already has the ticket from Tokyo where she's been doing newscasting work because, you know, Robin will be all over. It's kind of unfair for me to make her pay to come only for you to say she can't come. And Stella's like, whatever, you do what you think is best. Stella's ex, Tony, refuses to let Claire, Stella's daughter, go to the wedding. So Ted drives back to New York, tells Tony, hey, you gotta let her come, and accidentally invites Tony to the wedding. But he got Claire to come, so that's great. So now Ted and Stella have a problem. Someone needs to tell Robin that she's not welcome, and someone needs to tell Tony that he's not welcome. But because Ted and Robin are friends, and because Ted's such a great guy, he insists that Stella tells Tony so he can tell Robin. So he goes to tell Robin, and Robin's honestly like,
You can't come to the wedding.
Oh, thank God. Ted, it's weird.
It's not weird.
It is weird.
Robin tells Ted he's being dumb and rushing into things. Remember, she was not here for the intervention plot line to happen because she was in Tokyo. I didn't mention this in that episode because I forgot to write down that she went to Tokyo. Here we are. I'm flawed as a person. What do you want from me? Robin gets a bottle of scotch and she goes to Barney's room, but Barney is already messing around with someone else because of course he is. He's Barney, which ruins Barney's plan, ruins their chances of getting together for the moment, and leaves Robin very upset, and she just leaves the wedding. However, as Robin's leaving the wedding, Ted gets a letter, he's reading the letter, and we get this shot where Robin sees Stella having run away with her ex. Basically, we have this little like montage of Ted being like, remember when she was like, it's weird to have your ex at a wedding? She wasn't just talking about Robin, she was talking about Tony. Remember when she said there's all this history and you keep worried that blah, 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 blah. She wasn't talking about me and Robin, she was talking about her and Tony. This is what I'm saying when I mean like the show writers are like, oh, let's write in this character who's perfectly good for Ted, and Ted's only problem in the relationship is him not being able to get over his stupid dream of having to live in New York. And then all of a sudden it's like, just kidding, she's still in love with her ex. So I hate that. Season 4, episode 10, we are in the Ted mourning the relationship he could have had and the fact that he's still not married and the fact that the woman he loved ran away with her ex phase. That stays for a while. I don't have it on the timeline because you kind of assume when she runs away that that's what's gonna happen. And it does. I don't need to represent that on the timeline. Barney lies about getting into a fight because Robin is attracted to people who've been in fights. It's not going up on the timeline. I just think it's funny. Season 4, episode 12, Ted and Robin, who are living together because Robin was in Tokyo, she came back, now she doesn't have an apartment anymore, so she moves into Ted. Again, things like this I wasn't focusing on because it's a relationship timeline, but also I probably should have tracked that. This video is already too long. It's okay. So Ted and Robin keep bickering because of course they do. And they discover that the way to stop fighting is to start sleeping together. I'll never understand secular people. I don't get that. The news comes out because Marshall walks in and is like, I don't know anything. And they're like, Marshall, you can't tell anybody, but Marshall lives with Lily. And Lily's blabbermouth. So Barney finds out, reacts weird, literally like going out back to the dumpster to smash TVs. But then Barney's like, okay, what's all of these problems? They keep getting into fights because of this, that, and the other, and this, and the other. So he goes to the apartment. He fills the fridge with milk so there won't be any empty ones, there'll always be a new one. He cleans the apartment so they can't fight about that. Well, Ted walks in on him doing this and is like, you're in love with Robin. Now Ted knows, and don't worry, there's more in this episode. Robin and Barney are having a conversation, blah, 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 and he's like, you can see that he's building up to telling her. And she says something like, oh, you know guys, they always say things like, and he goes, I love you. And she's like, yeah. Breaks my heart. Season 4, episode 14, another one that's not on the timeline. Robin's work visa expires because she no longer has a job in America, so she can no longer stay in America and has to go back to Canada. Marshall suggests she marries a US citizen, and Barney stands up and gets down on one knee, and then Marshall's like, that wouldn't work, the paperwork won't be filed, and then he just stands back up like nothing happens. I think this is really funny, and I also think that it shows that Barney would do something like that for someone. I'm not saying the relationship would be healthy, but character growth. Barney ends up making a promotional video for Robin, which helps her get a job, and now she can stay in America. Season 4, episode 15, The Stintons, it's revealed that Barney has a fake family because his mother was dying at one point. It's a whole thing. I'm not explaining that. At the end of that, and him coming clean to his mother, his mom says, if you find someone that you want to marry, you shouldn't let her go. You should chase her. And then Robin enters the room. Season 4, episode 17, Lily admits that she had a hand in Ted and Robin breaking up, but also she only did it because they were toxic and they didn't need to be together. This is one of those like, what if so-and-so did the thing all along kind of episodes, but because it's Lily and because it's not like altering the plot of the show, it's fine. I'm not putting it on the timeline. I'm just telling you that it happens. Once Ted has forgiven Lily, he goes to Robin and he's like, hey, not married by 40, we marry each other. And she's like, heck yeah, bro. Season 4, episode 20, Mobius Designs. Barney says that Robin is the best woman on the planet. And then Barney, don't have him on the timeline, sorry Marshall, tells Marshall that he's in love with Lily. So again, he's in love with Lily? Barney tells Marshall that he's in love with Robin. So everyone but Robin now knows.
Oh, wait for it. Wait for it.
I know that you're in love with Robin.
Alright, season 4, episode 22, right place, right time. Barney has a goal he reaches. I'm not blaming Barney for the way that he is. Sex addiction is a real thing. I am blaming the show for too much. So Barney finishes his big goal, woohoo, and he asks himself, what's next? And then Robin walks into the bar. The amount of times we do that where someone asks a question and it's just like, Robin's the answer. Again, the show writers knew how they wanted to end the show and they kept teasing me like this, thinking it would end up well. Season 4, episode 24, The Leap. Barney goes to Ted to ask for permission to date Robin, and Ted gives the go-ahead. While he's telling Ted this, Robin overhears, so Barney goes to tell Robin that he's in love with her, but she beats him to the punch and he gets weirded out by it. And so he's like, oh, over her. But then he finds out that she had lied and she wasn't actually in love with him because, of course, Lily told him. And so then they have it out, they have a fight, and...
Like, I care about you, Barney. And this kind of stuff, the emotional stuff, it's not your thing. I thought I'd save you the trouble.
Maybe I don't want to be saved the trouble. Maybe I want the trouble. I haven't wanted the trouble in a long time, but with you, the trouble doesn't seem so troubling.
They bicker, and then they kiss. And I'm not going to say if they're together or not, because that we'll talk about next season. Not in season 4. You might be like, Abby, that was really quick. Girl, there's 9 seasons. Season 4. Let's go over it real quick. Barney tells Lily he's in love with Robin. Robin accidentally brings Tony to the wedding. Robin comes to the wedding and he has to tell her, hey, you're actually not invited. And she's like, oh, thank God. Robin leaves the wedding because she sees that Stella has also left the wedding with her ex. So now Ted has been left at the altar. Ted and Robin start sleeping together because Barney gets weirded out by it, which makes Ted realize that Barney is in love with Robin. Barney says, I love you to Robin, but Robin doesn't realize that he's actually saying it for real. Barney gets Ted's permission to date Robin. He sort of says, I love you, but then she says it first, but she's actually lying, but she's not actually lying, and then they make out. And it is unclear as if they are together or not. And we as an audience are like, yeah! And then season 5 happens. So let's talk about Ted. Alright, welcome to the Ted Rant. This is a very hard topic for me because I am re-recording because he's kind of all over the place, and so I was kind of all over the place. What we like about Ted. Ted is a nice guy. You are consistently rooting for him to find the titular mother. You want her to be found. You want him to find love because most of the time he's deserving of it. I say most of the time because remember, he is a flawed person who makes some pretty big mistakes that he never really repents for, like the whole cheating on Victoria thing. But for the most part, you as a viewer are never really that mad at Ted. He's a good guy. You want him to find the right person. That being said, there is 9 seasons of this show. So sometimes when you're binging it specifically, which this show is not made to be binged on Netflix, so take everything with a grain of salt. But when binging it, you're kind of like, okay, we get it. He's lonely. He's single. He's waiting for her. But also, there will be like arcs, like season-long arcs, where we're less focused on not just Ted, but on Ted finding the mother, like the woman of his dreams, which I think is good because no person should be summed up by their relationships. And with this kind of show, I feel like, especially with me making this timeline, trying to sum him up by his relationships, it's very easy to be like, he is single guy who wants to get married and there's nothing else to him. But that's not really true. Ted is an architect. That's a huge part of his story. It's not as big of a part of his story as how he met their mother, but again, in the context of he's telling his kids the story of how he met their mom, that would play a bigger role than the fact that he was a teacher. We do get some dedicated time to Ted's other interests. We get some time to talk about, I was gonna say his family. We don't really see much about his family other than some jokes that Barney might have kissed his mom. Let's not talk about that. But like, Ted's an architect. He quits his job at the architecture firm and then is like freelancing and is like sad guy who doesn't really have a job and is kind of just sleeping on the couch of his friend's apartment, except for it's also his apartment, but now he's not really the one paying rent. And then he becomes a teacher, which is great, and he loves it, but then he doesn't love it at one point, and so he goes back to architecture, and that's how we get introduced to a different girlfriend. So some of it feels kind of like contrived for plot reasons. We need him to be an architect again, but other times it's like, no, but like architecture was his dream. That does make sense that he would come back to it. It's not anything to be mad at, but it is kind of like, well, that's convenient timing. But again, I like that we don't spend all 9 seasons with him in love with Robin. He's not in love with Robin every season. The fact that he does fall back in love with her again and again is kind of concerning. That being said, you do like Ted. You do see that he is caring. I mean, the him not being friends with Barney anymore thing, it only lasts a couple episodes. It's so heavy because we see Ted angry momentarily. We don't see him hold a grudge. Lily's the one who holds a grudge. Robin can hold a grudge. Pretty much anyone but Marshall can hold a grudge. Ted is not someone who holds a grudge, but because Ted is the guy who will drop anything to be at his friend's side, to help his friends. Lily needs someone to go pick her up or to stop her from being crazy. Ted's the one she talks to. The only one who knows all of Lily as who Lily is Ted. Not Marshall, Ted. Because Lily is scared of showing Marshall her flaws like that. But she knows that Ted is going to stick by her no matter what, which she should also know for Marshall because, you know, they're married, but that's a different video. I think it's really important to the fact that Ted is so caring as a friend because it makes us understand how he would care for his future partner. It also makes us understand how big of a deal someone betraying his trust is to him. There's so much to Ted as a character, even though he's kind of all over the place, and I could rant about that, but I'm not going to. That is why I like Ted as a character. I'm sorry I complain about him. He's the main character. He's the easiest one to make jokes about because the show makes jokes about everybody else, except for Marshall. We love Marshall. We stan Marshall. And is that just me being a fan of the 2011 Muppets movie? You decide. Taking a quick break from this video to tell you that, hi, I am the sponsor of today's video. I am an indie author. I am self-published, which means I do all of the work promoting myself, hence why I'm doing this in this video. I have 6 books out right now. 3 of them are in a series about kids with superpowers trying to find a villain hiding undercover at their school. If you are interested in sci-fi, fantasy, or fiction, please check that out. If you are a fan of poetry, I also have 3 compilations of those, one of which also tells a story through poems. You can check all of this out at lulu.com when you search ACHam, or you can follow my Instagram at officialjustinstrikes. That is a small way in which you can support me, a small creator on this platform who does not have enough subscribers to do ad breaks, but also is keeping you from having to watch ad breaks, hopefully. Anyways, back to the video.
All right, welcome back. This is my best I can do to represent Ted. I feel like he wears a lot of sweaters and sweatshirts, and this is the best I have. Welcome to season 5. If you will remember where we have left off, where did we leave off? Stella left Ted at the wedding. He has kind of given up on architecture. He's about to try something new at the beginning of this season. We will get there. Barney and Robin have been left on a cliffhanger where it's kind of like, are they together? We suppose they're together. Season 5, episode 1, definitions. Barney and Robin tell Marshall and Lily that they are just friends. They are lying. They are together, but they are not in a defined relationship. So, Lily, being Lily, taking control of situations, locks the 2 of them in a room until they define the relationship, and the 2 of them, compromising in order to get out of that room, decide, yeah, we're totally a couple. But then like as soon as they leave the apartment, you're kind of looking at the 2 of them like, yeah, they're totally a couple. So they're lying, but they're not really. Ted, on the other hand, has decided to start teaching, but he goes to the wrong room. In that classroom was the mother. So this class is important, but also not in this classroom. Welcome to season 5, baby. All right, that's Ted's teaching arc. We have pretty much 6 episodes where Barney and Robin are dating, Ted is teaching. That is the only thing plot-wise that I found relevant to write down for this timeline. Season 5, episode 7, Ted finds a video from Barney telling Ted that Ted needs to get Barney out of Barney's relationship. Then we discover that Barney and Robin have kind of let themselves go. So combined with that and this video, they're like, we need to break them up. They do this whole scheme. They pull Lily out of retirement because Lily was done meddling. They try to break the 2 of them up, and it doesn't seem to have worked, and it also didn't work. So when I say it doesn't seem to have worked, because they look at the window of the 2 of them on the date and they see them like hug and then leave together. They're like, dang, we didn't break them up. Also, it just didn't work. However, they did break up, not because of the gang trying to meddle, but because they realized how much they'd let themselves go. As much as I love Barney and Robin, and I do love Barney and Robin, we'll get back to that. This is a good breakup, because remember, neither of these people have really been in a relationship.
Neither of them are good at being in a relationship. And that, when you put two of that in the same equation, the equation explodes. I wasn't good at math. I don't know what you want from me. Now that's off center. Tag nab. I fixed it. Season 5, episode 8. So remember last episode, like a week in Showtime, Robin and Barney had broken up. Barney goes back and he has his playbook, which is every idea on hitting on a woman / getting a woman to sleep with him, and he is just going through plays. The whole time, Marshall, Lily, and Ted are like, Robin, y'all just broke up, you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine, it's okay. Barney be Barney. And then at the end of the episode, she's kind of like, hey, this isn't okay. Barney's trying to play, and Robin says to him, like, we just broke up. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Like, I thought you were fine, you kept saying you were fine. We end it with like a kind of sad Robin, and then Marshall goes, Robin, I think you're gonna find the love of your life walking just through that door. And then like someone else walks through, and Ted narrates and he goes, she did not fall in love with the old man or whoever walked through the door. However, the next day she met Dawn. This is Dawn. Again, I don't get into most of the other love interests. I don't think Robin has that many major love interests aside from Ted and Dawn. Dawn is important. That's why he's on the timeline. No one gets their face on the timeline unless they're important, with one exception, Coat Check Girl. But she's representing all the other unimportant characters who don't get to be on the timeline. I don't have Dawn on my timeline as much. He is one of Robin's co-workers. He used to be really big on the news, like he's been on a bunch of major news sites, and he has let himself go to the point where he doesn't wear pants around the office. Basically, he's kind of like, give up, who cares, you're on minor news, nobody cares. And Robin really cares about her job at the minor news station because she wants to get to a major news station. He's important, they start dating, obviously. They start dating after he has put himself back together. Like, she basically like looks him in the face and she's like, I don't care that you don't care, I care. I care that the work I do is good no matter where I do it. And he kind of respects her for that, so he starts wearing pants again, thank God. Season 5, episode 12, Girls vs. Suits. Ted meets Cindy. She's kind of important. Ted and Cindy go out and they go to her apartment, and he basically is like looking around all this stuff. And he's like, oh, I love that book. And she's like, oh yeah, that's my roommates. You play the bass. I love women who play the bass. And she's like, yeah, that's my roommates. I have 3 things in this room that are my roommates, and you pointed them out. Ted is going to leave, and he peeps the mom's ankle. She is there, she's the roommate.
Oh my God, they were roommates.
He also leaves his yellow umbrella there. He had received the yellow umbrella at a club. He goes to a club, it's raining when he leaves. He had like the worst day of his life. He leaves, it's raining, so he takes an umbrella. It's a yellow umbrella. And now he loses it by leaving it at Cindy's house. I was gonna say the other person's name. We'll get there. Season 5, episode 17, the guys figure out, the guys meaning the gang, that Robin is in mourning over her breakup with Barney. I really like this because when I was rewatching this, I remember there's like the scene where like Barney says something, he walks in and he's like, yeah, blah, 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 girls, blah, 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 no mourning the breakup. And Robin's like, I'm leaving. And she leaves, and I was like, oh yeah, she cries in the hallway. And then she didn't cry in the hallway, and I was like, what the heck? This is the episode where like it cuts to all of those moments and it shows her crying in the hallway, and I was like, oh my gosh. So Ted and Marshall and Lily comfort Robin in the bathroom of McLaren's, and then Barney goes to talk to her while she's at the gun range, and she basically is like mad at him. She's like, you are taking this girl who he doesn't even like, he's just trying to do it because she's basically like the anti-Barney, and he's trying to prove that she'll fall for him anyways. And she's like, you're taking this girl on this amazing date, and I never got treated that way. He's like, wow, I knew I was a bad boyfriend. I didn't realize I was a bad ex-boyfriend. Barney, who had been planning this big, elaborate date, I think it's called the Super Date. I think there's a song for that in that episode. I know Barney ends up giving up that date to let Robin go on a date with Dawn. Season 5, episode 20, Ted's mom gets married. Ted does not deal with it very well. Ted has a crisis and he buys a house that is falling apart. But then, older Ted reveals to the group, or to the kids, that this is the house that they live in. Season 5, episode 21, the gang meets Dawn for the first time, and Dawn discovers 2 funny things in one night. He figures out that Robin dated Ted, and then he discovers that Robin dated Barney, and he's like kind of weirded out by it, because I mean, it is kind of weird that like 2 of her best friends are her exes, and he gets over it. Barney and Ted get drunk. Barney decides he wants Robin back. Ted decides he wants Robin back. They both drunkenly show up, and they embarrass the fool out of her in front of Dawn. Robin says that she's moving in with Dawn, and she will not be a part of the group anymore. And they both get back, and they're like, oh my gosh, like we can never get that drunk again. We can never do anything to embarrass her like that. We can never risk losing her like that. Ted goes back to his apartment. He goes to check Robin's room, and it's empty except for the blue French horn. She has left. She's moving in with Dawn, and she is no longer hanging out with guys anymore. She will still hang out with Lily because her and Lily are friends, and that's like her only friend in New York. So like, who else would she hang out with? But she won't hang out with boys anymore. And then Barney tells himself to get back with Robin no matter what. This one I did not put on there, and this is actually before the last episode, so the last episode is not represented on here. Ted, season 5, episode 23, goes on a date with a girl. Don't know her name. I know that I recognize the actress. They go to see a movie called The Wedding Bride, and the story of The Wedding Bride was written by Tony. You know, the guy who stole Stella, and the movie's about Stella, and Ted is the bad guy. Season 5, episode 24, again, not going on the timeline. Robin gets offered a newscaster job in Chicago. And you know Robin, career or boyfriend in New York. She chooses the boyfriend in New York. Dawn gets offered the same job and takes it. They break up. When Robin is talking about the possibility of the job, Barney does not react well. You can see how minor this is. It's basically Dawn gets taken off the timeline. Dawn is on the timeline because I think the importance of her giving up that job for someone shows growth. Because again, that's the reason her and Ted broke up, is because she had to leave. So let's recap season 5 real quick. Ted starts a teaching job. It is revealed that the mother is in the teaching job. Barney and Robin break up because they are not mature enough. After the breakup, they get into some fights because he's acting completely fine over it, but she's absolutely not fine over it. But she meets Dawn, who will be important, but not on the timeline. So she meets Dawn, and she will eventually give up a job offer for him. We meet Cindy, who was in Ted's class. They go on one singular date, and it is revealed that the mother lives with Cindy, and Ted leaves the umbrella there. Ted buys a house. It is the house he will have in the future with his kids and the mother. The group is introduced to Dawn, and then Barney and Ted each try to get Robin back, embarrassing her, and then she moves out to be with Dawn. But when she and Dawn break up, she moves back in with Ted because she doesn't have anywhere to live. And then Tony made a movie based on Ted and Stella. All right, let's talk about Robin. All right, don't mind me, I'm multitasking as I film this segment. Robin is a girly girl who is also not like other girls, which I think is not something we've seen a lot. She is the epitome of not like other girls without really falling into most of the defined labels that we have for not like other girls. When we think of not like other girls, we think of, oh, she's bold and brave, but she doesn't have much of a personality, like Tris from Divergent. Or we think of, she's not like other girls, she can't stand other people. How dare you try to define her, but like also you don't like her as a character. I'm not gonna give an example for that one. We can think of our own. We have some, like my character Eliza, who it's like, oh, she's not like other girls, but it's really like, she's not standoffish, she just has trauma. Sorry. And then we have Robin, who is in the, at this point in the modern age, rare third category of not other girls who are both tomboyish, but also really girly. Like, Robin always looks really pretty. I love Kobe Smulders. They do her justice with her wardrobe. But also, she's not very girly. That's why she gets along with Barney. She likes smoking cigars. She likes a nice scotch. She likes going to the gun range and shooting things. And she's Canadian. She's not American, she's Canadian. That's how not like other girls she is. But at the same time, you as a woman, most of the time aren't like, ugh, I can't relate to Robin as a character, she's not like me. You as a woman are like, no, yeah, I understand Robin. She's very career oriented, but it's also, the show isn't like, feminism, she's very career oriented. It's more like, she's very career oriented, and it ruins a lot of her relationships with other people. Which, you know, I like seeing complex women who aren't just, wow, she's so complex. She ruins her, can you stop? She ruins her own chances at happiness for most of the time until Dawn, because she's choosing her career over a love life, even though she wants a love life. Again, just because Robin doesn't really particularly strive to get married, it doesn't mean that she doesn't want romance. She's very complex, and it's not just like, oh, she's strong and career-oriented, but she's also a bit girly. Look at those hoop earrings. It's like, no, she's strong and career-oriented, but sometimes she lets her career overtake her friends or her love life, and she's very complex as a character to where you don't feel alienated from her. It's not like, I'm not like other girls. Well, yeah, I know, we the other girls don't like you. It's no, I look at Robin and I can see myself in it, even though I don't shoot guns, I don't drink, let alone scotch, I'm not smoking anything,
I want kids in a family, yet me, being the opposite of Robin, can look at Robin and say, no, I understand her. She's also very hard to talk about for that reason, but it's not the same reason as Ted. Ted is all over the place as a character. He changes a lot even though his main goal is the same. Robin's kind of the same, but not. Her as a character stays the same, her goals stay the same, she grows in them. She stops putting her career before men for Dawn, but then the ending of the show ruins that whole idea, we'll get there. But also, she starts stopping putting her career forward to put time for her friends. She starts talking to people more. She starts liking people more. I mean, there's a whole episode about how Robin is not like other girls and she can't be friends with other girls, and how Lily, as her female friend, has a hard time being friends with her because Robin will sometimes diss the girlier things. That being said, even Robin, who does not want kids, likes kids. She doesn't want to have them herself, which does set up for the ending and the fact that she doesn't want to have them, but she does like them. I don't like that, but whatever. I think that's fine. I don't mind that for Robin. Again, I really like Robin. Most of the characters, there's this thing for Friends, it's dumb internet theory, where people are like, maybe the whole show takes place inside of a psych ward because all the characters are crazy, which, by the way, Community saw that and they said, let's do that for an episode. And then be like, no, just kidding, that's stupid. But like, oh, Monica's neurotic and OCD, and Ross and Rachel definitely need to be somewhere. I think How I Met Your Mother works like that, but it's like a therapist office. And it's like, okay, so Barney's here for sex addiction, tracks. Ted is very obsessive with this specific idea of the one and New York. So that tracks. Lily's manipulative. Don't know why Marshall's here, but I'm guessing it's to support Lily. And Robin's very self-centered. We'll get to therapy for Robin. That's in a season, and it might be season 6, so let's check.
Alright besties, we are going to speedrun this season because I have somewhere to be. Honestly, this video is already too long. I'm wearing a beanie to represent a character we are about to be introduced to. Let's get into it. Season 6, episode 1. Remember, Robin has been broken up with by Dawn, who left her to go take a job in Chicago. She is not handling that well. She is pretty much not doing good. In this episode, we see Cindy again. I told you she was important. Ted remembers how much he liked her roommate, and actually is thinking not of the roommate, who is the mother, but of Cindy. Then it's revealed that Cindy is into girls. Cindy will come back into play. Someone makes a comment to Robin of like, you don't have it anymore, you've lost it because you look like this. And she's like, oh, have I? So she walks back in and she's like, all like nice and dressed proper, and then her and Barney have like a moment and she's like, see? And then he gives her like a look. Season 6, episode 4, Subway Wars. The whole gang is racing from using different modes of transportation to see if they can get from point A to point B, and then from point B to point A the quickest. That is why it is called this. In this episode, Ted mentions the Arcadian, which we will talk about in just a second. In the end of this, Barney ends up sabotaging Ted from winning so that Robin can win because she really needed it, because it had been a really hard couple months for her. The whole episode is kind of like, so-and-so really needs it, but most of them are superficial except for Robin. Robin actually at one point tries to talk to Barney about her problems as like friends, to be like, hey, I'm really struggling, and he's like joking with her, and she's like, that's not helping, like stop. So then he lets her win, and it's a really nice moment, and Ted kind of knows, like, you tackled me. It wasn't, oh, we tripped, you tackled me. Season 6, episode 5, Ted gets a project to tear down and redesign a building called the Arcadian, which was previously referenced in the last episode. So I like that it's like mentioned, but not like a huge plot thing. It's like literally just like, oh, you know, like the Arcadian. So this is the Arcadian. While he goes to check out the building, he meets Zoe, who is an activist trying to save the Arcadian. They immediately hit it off, but then she gets really mad and decides that he is her arch nemesis when she discovers that he is the person who will be building the building, replacing the Arcadian. Zoe does not have her own picture up on the timeline. It is just her yelling at Ted, and we're gonna leave it that way. Season 6, episode 6, Ted tells Robin that she never made him feel needed in the relationship. Robin goes to Barney to ask him if he feels the same way, and he says yes, but it was something that he liked. He liked that it didn't feel like she was always needing him, always needy. He liked how independent she was and how she was always able to handle herself. This is not going up on the timeline, we are just mentioning it. Season 8, episode 6, Ted discovers that Zoe is the wife of a business tycoon called the Captain. He does get his own sticker. Ted and Zoe talk in the butterfly exhibit of this museum where they're having this gala.
Go live your perfect little life and leave me the hell alone.
My life isn't perfect.
Oh, please, what's your biggest problem? Having to sail back to the marina because the captain's all out of white zin? Oh, great. Now you're crying.
And he ends up being like, let's be honest, the Arcadian is a beautiful building. They shouldn't tear it down. You're right. Like, he's like talking to her like, yes, I hate this being torn down. He doesn't give a but there is a but. Anyways, she...
Ted, that was really easy.
What?
There are a bunch of...
She tape records him, bad-mouthing the Arcadian, and is going to use it as like blackmail. Like, even the head architect of this project doesn't want the building to be torn down. But then her husband, the captain, and Ted kind of get along, so the captain tells Ted he's going to make Zoe delete it. And she, having overheard this conversation, tells Ted that she deleted it herself. Season 6, episode 10, Blitzgiving. The whole gang, including Zoe now, because Zoe gets along with the gang, apparently. This is more told than shown. They all spend Thanksgiving together, and Ted and Zoe argue over spending Thanksgiving together, but they end up having like a nice heart-to-heart moment where Ted realizes that the stepdaughter, the captain's daughter, doesn't like Zoe, and that Zoe was actually really upset about Thanksgiving and spending it alone until they came over, even though they came over with Ted. Season 6, episode 15, Ted tells Robin he's in love with Zoe, who again is married to the captain. Ted gets the gang, minus Marshall, because Marshall has been in Minnesota. He gets all of them together for an intervention for himself, and they're like, who's the intervention for? And he's like, it's for me. Ted tells Zoe that they can't be friends anymore because Lily hates her. Marshall then, through a series of phone calls, finds out that Zoe's actually getting divorced from the captain and that Zoe and Ted both like each other. So he calls Ted to tell Zoe and Zoe to tell Ted, and then they kiss. And so now Ted and Zoe are together. Season 6, episode 16, things get serious very quickly for Ted and Zoe because Valentine's Day is coming up. Robin brings her co-worker Nora to the bar where she meets Barney and sets the two of them up for laser tag. If anything that this show has done to affect my brain, it is them delusioning me into thinking that a laser tag is really something that baddies do, and also that it is a good date. I'm not knocking it till I try it. Season 6, episode 17, Ted tells the captain that he is the one who stole Zoe away from him, and Robin finally gets Barney to admit that he has feelings for Nora, and then Barney calls Nora and the two start going out. That is just not on the timeline, that is just continuing the plot. Season 6, episode 20, Ted and Zoe always argue, and though Ted says it's good because it's healthy that they don't get along all of the time, he's actually very unhappy, especially when Zoe keeps getting his building project delayed by calling the Historical Society and by getting them to schedule a hearing to see if they can declare the Arcadian to be a historical site. Season 6, episode 21, Barney jokes that he would be happy marrying Robin. Season 6, episode 22, Ted finally gets mad at Zoe about her trying to destroy his dream of building a building that's going to be a part of the New York skyline. The two bicker, and then in an effort to see the same side, they spend a night in the Arcadian, which is the worst hotel you can ever imagine. Zoe reveals to Ted that she lived in the Arcadian as a kid, and that's why it's important to her, even though people like literally cannot live in the Arcadian. Ted comes to her side anyways because he loves her. Season 6, episode 23, the day before the Arcadian trial, Ted and Zoe meet at the building, and Zoe says, "It's nice to see what we're trying to save," and she's looking up at the building. And he says, yes, it is, looking at her, realizing that their relationship, like the Arcadian, is doomed to be exploded by dynamite, but wishing to save it nonetheless. Ted tells the panel that the Arcadian does not have any reason to be a national landmark, thus ending his relationship with Zoe. Her and her anger pulls out the deleted tape recording, which, mind you, she kept that sucker despite the fact she was dating Ted. She pulls out the recorder, plays it. The building ends up being declared a national landmark because it has this nice lion head statue on the front of it. And then the lion head statue goes missing. Now it can't be a national landmark. It ends up in Barney's bedroom, which I think is really funny. We never see it again, but just the fact that they were like, can't be a landmark without the lion. Take the lion. Genius. Season 6, episode 24, Ted rebounds and almost gets back with Zoe. Barney and Robin talk to each other about rebounds and reflect on the fact that they both loved each other. Robin tells Ted he can't run back to the past just because it's familiar while looking at Barney. He echoes the sentiment. Barney then reveals that he has actually ghosted Nora, and he runs into her again, and she's wearing a sundress, which earlier in the season, I don't have it on the timeline, he says is his favorite thing and the most attractive thing a woman can wear. Anyway, so now the two of them are kind of together. This season ends with Ted in the future walking into a room saying, like, he's outside with Marshall. We've started the season this way, or the episode this way, and he's outside with Marshall, and they're talking about blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And then Lily comes out and she says, Ted, the groom wants to see you. He walks into the room and the groom is Barney. And that is how we end this season. We will spend the next season uncovering the rest of the mystery of what this wedding is. And the wedding is the last season of the show. That is where we are.
I was in such a hurry to record earlier that I forgot to recap the season, but that's okay. There's only like 3 things needed to remember. 1, we have run into Cindy. Don't forget Cindy. She is important. 2, Ted met Zoe and they didn't really get along because she destroyed the building that was going to become the building that Ted designed. Ted's an architect. That's a huge deal for him. Also, do not forget in this plot line that the captain, Zoe's ex-husband, now ex-husband, exists. Number 3, Robin and Barney keep having little moments where it's like they care for each other, they really get along, they'd be a good couple, but now Barney and Nora are a thing. That is basically my recap. Also, we end the season with the aforementioned Barney is going to get married to someone plot twist, which we'll get back to in season 7. But first, let's have a moment of me going crazy before we talk about season 7.
We interrupt this video about How I Met Your Mother to show you a clip from a series of unfortunate events that references How I Met Your.
If she's so good at fortune telling, why does she live out here in the hinterlands instead of having her own television show in the city?
I tried that for 9 years. Look where it got me.
Tangent before we start. This is the Kane Chronicles. And this is a sticker I made. Place your bets on which of these pictures are going to become stickers. Sandcastles in the sand for sure. Just a reminder, we left last season with the revelation that Barney is gonna get married. Usually the question we are asking ourselves is, when is he gonna meet the mother? The later seasons get really good at setting up, okay, this is where we're going. And here's the whole season of how we get here. So Barney's getting married. And now let's get into season 7. Season 7, episode 1. Robin drunkenly admits that she wishes she and Barney would get back together. You might notice that there is something on the timeline that I did not talk about. I did talk about it. I talked about it last season because I thought it was in the finale of last season. It's not. It's in this episode. These are going to overlap now. Anyways, Robin admits that she wishes she and Barney would get back together. And then her and Barney do this dance. I'm just going to let it play.
Faction when we're done. Satisfaction of I couldn't live for another.
This is cinema. I literally wrote down, Barney and Robin do an amazing dance routine together, proving that love exists. Barney gets a call from Nora, who he has been ghosting, and he reveals to Robin after they dance, and he gets the call. He's like, oh my gosh, I said I didn't call her back. I did. I called her back like 7 times and she didn't call me back, and now she's calling me back. What do I say? And Robin is like, oh, he really likes her. And so she does the cliche of admitting her feelings, but through a veil of pretending to help him. So, breaks my heart. Again, what I have written down is, Robin tells him what she's feeling for him to say to her, I cry. Season 7, episode 2. Nora catches Barney in another lie, causing Barney to come clean about 1,000 lies. So Nora is super like, if you're not truthful, you ain't in my life. And so Barney comes clean about a bunch of stuff, and he genuinely trying. Again, he gets, I think, a total of 3 love interests, including Robin, where it's like, hey, he actually wants to be in love. It doesn't have to be Robin. Anyways, so Nora tells Barney that she is not interested in dating him until he points out that during this whole conversation they've been having, she could have left at any time. He literally stays overnight for a week, a night. He literally stays overnight in the diner until she relents to go out with him. Ted, during all of this, reflects on how he doesn't want to wonder what could be. He wants to know. He wants to be crazy in love. He wants to stay overnight in a diner for someone. And then he goes to the architect's ball. And he runs into Victoria. Bam! You remember Victoria? We love Victoria. Remember how I talked about I really like season 2 Victoria? This is the other Victoria. This is character assassination Victoria. Season 7, episode 3, Ted and Victoria catch up, and it comes out that A, she is in a relationship, she's about to get engaged, she's not engaged, but she knows he's about to propose. She's very excited. And B, the guy she is engaged to, she met in Germany. And Ted figures out that she met in Germany in the Culinary Institute.
while they were still dating. Now, it's kind of implied, I don't know if it's 100% said, like she does not cheat on him. But there's like an emotional factor going in, an emotional affair, which is still an affair. They kind of retcon it as like, why would she get back together with him when he, blah, blah, blah. Not that she and Ted get back together, that'd be a spoiler. Why would she get back together with him when like Ted cheated on her? And then they're kind of like, well, what if she sort of cheated on him too, but it was just emotional? So it's kind of like they call it even, which, you know, that's healthy for a relationship. In this episode, Ted and Victoria kiss, meaning now she has cheated on someone. Victoria tells Ted that he is still in love with Robin, and that Robin, and Barney being friends won't work out. Season 7, episode 4, we now have our girl Robin in therapy. This is her therapist, Kevin. Kevin is the only sane person left on the show. He gets bonus points for that. So Robin's in therapy talking about Barney and Nora. Barney needs to put a stop to all of his stunts while Nora is gone for a month. So he's like, I am cutting ties with this. Like he has an answering machine that like helps him get laid. And so now he's like shutting that off and he's doing this, XYZ. He's basically like stopping all of his old ways while she's gone so that she doesn't have to see all the things that he's now cutting off. Robin offers to help him, but she's honestly trying to steal him back. It doesn't work, just letting you know. Season 7, episode 5, Robin's therapist, Kevin, he says he can't be her therapist anymore because he has feelings for her. So they start dating, which is good because again, he is the only sane person left on this show. I don't know what episode her first episode is, but this is Patrice. She works with Robin. She is like Robin's #1 fan. She's super fun, she's super supporting, and she loves Robin. Patrice is a gem. You might be like, why is she on the timeline? We will get to why she is on the timeline. I'm just letting you know that she exists. Season 7, episode 8, the provocative pumpkin woman returns. That's the fulfilling of a plot from, again, Season 1. I think the provocative pumpkin woman, which is now what I'm gonna call her, it's kind of like what I wish had happened with Check Coat Girl. Coat Check Girl. With Coat Check, why do I keep saying Check Coat? With Coat Check Girl, where I'm like, he gets her number here, and then maybe they run into each other somewhere around here, you know? But this is like one of those, oh, Ted is single, let's clear up this plot line. Season 7, episode 9, it is revealed that Barney and Robin almost hooked up in August after the hurricane. The two of them in like current day are like catching up about this and they're talking about it. They're like, oh my gosh, like we almost, ha ha ha, like, ah. And then they start making out and they do hook up and then they both cheat on their partners because remember, Barney is with Nora and Robin is with Kevin. Which leads us into one of my least favorite episodes. Great, well done episode. Love that episode. I don't like watching it because sad. Season 7, episode 10, Tick, Tick, Tick. Barney and Robin struggle to tell their partners that they have, you know, cheated on them. And it's not like, oh, they want to tell their partners. It's more like the conscience is speaking. The guy singing the song is literally singing about them and they have to tell their partners what happened. So then Barney admits to Robin that he wants to get back together and that it's what they both want, which he says more than her, but she doesn't 100% disagree. So Barney says they should break up with their partners and then meet at McLaren's to meet up and discuss their future. So Barney breaks up with Nora. We all kind of knew Nora was just a placeholder girl. I mean, like, literally she's not in that many episodes. She's just moving his character development forward. It's fine. We like Nora. We get to the bar and the gang shows up and...
Gone? Not great. Nora and I broke up.
Oh my God, what happened?
I don't really feel like getting into it, but I think the worst part is over. Hey. Hey, Kev. What's up, Kev?
Hey.
Sometimes hours can feel like minutes, and sometimes a single second can last a lifetime. For Barney, the second that would never end was this one.
Literally heartbreaking. Just the sound stopping, everything freezing except for him, and just the heartbreak. Neil Patrick Harris, the actor that you are, I'm mad. I'm mad at how good you are because every time you cry, I cry. I don't know if we discover after, if we discover before, but Robin was going to tell Kevin, and he basically says, is it something I want to know? Then don't tell me. I will forgive you. We will move on. And if you're not going to do it again, I don't need to know. Adding to my timeline, Robin shaking her head and the look of just utter pain on Barney's face. So after this moment, Ted goes back to his apartment and he finds Barney cleaning up a surprise he had left for Robin, which included rose petals and candles, showing that his over-the-top treat your girlfriend method didn't die with Nora. Season 7, episode 11, Robin tells Barney she might be pregnant. And then she reveals that her and Kevin have not slept together, so surprise! If I'm pregnant, it's yours. Don't clip that out of context. Season 7, episode 12, Robin finds out that she isn't pregnant and she can't have kids. This episode starts from Robin's perspective and she says kids. This is the story of how I da-da-da-da-da-da. And so it's basically like her telling her future kids, her would-be future kids, the story of them, and it's really funny until we get to the ending and realize how sad it actually is because she can't have kids. She tells herself, if I tell my friends, they're all gonna have certain reactions, you know, Marshall's gonna go into fix-it mode, Lily's gonna be like overwhelmingly empathetic, Ted's gonna also try to fix it or try to distract me, and then he's gonna be super awkward about it, and she doesn't even think about Barney. But she ends up admitting it to Barney. And the person on TikTok had said, they had said, Barney knows how much not being able to have something makes her want it more. And that's why he comforts her in that moment. It's not, oh, I love her, or oh, XYZ. I mean, like, yes, love is in it, but also like that could be the love of a friendship. And I just think that moment is so important.
All right, editing Abby in. I forgot to mention what Ted does in this episode. We see her clearly upset and clearly disturbed, and Ted is remarking upon it, and she just, again, she does not want to tell people. It ends up just like spilling out of her when she ends up telling Barney, but she does not want to tell people, so she does not tell Ted, and Ted knows that something is wrong, so he does this big, like, putting all these like nice Christmas lights set to music in their house, the apartment, to like surprise her and like help her feel better. He's like, you might not tell me what's going on, but I'm here for you either way. That is also important. That is also good. I also just read, while looking for clips that I couldn't find, I found a comment on TikTok and it was like, if the writers wanted Robin to love Ted, why did they make her love Barney more? And I think that is so poignant for the end of the show. We will get there.
Oh, well, we get there. Season 7, episode 16, Barney meets a girl named Quinn, who is on to every single one of his plays and shuts him down in every turn. But he's like obsessed with the idea of this girl, Quinn. We will get into Quinn in a minute. The main plot of this episode is Kevin proposes to Robin. Robin tells Kevin, I can't have kids. And he says, okay, will you marry me? And she says, yes, but I also don't really want kids. And he says, okay, will you marry me? Great guy. And Robin says, you really need to think about the fact that there's no kids in this future. You need to sit and think if this is something you actually want before you actually decide, yeah, I want to marry you. And before we go further down this line and you realize this isn't what you want. Kevin takes back the proposal. They break up. Robin tells Ted that she was finally ready for something serious, but Kevin couldn't look past this one thing wrong with her. And then freaking Ted says, I could look past it. Yeah, we're back on this. We're back on the Ted is in love with Robin thing. That's how the episode mostly ends, except for like the end credit thing. So he says I love you to Robin, then it like cuts commercial, and when we come back we see Quinn at her job and she is talking about Barney and she is like, yeah, like I can't stand guys like that. Like, yeah, he's charming, but he didn't even recognize me and he sees me all the time. It is then revealed that Quinn is a stripper. Barney does not know this yet. We, the audience, know this. So let's get into episode 17. Season 7, episode 17, No Pressure. No pressure! Ted tells his kids that the last time he said I love you before their mom was with Robin, and then we cut back to this scene of him telling her he loves her, and then Ted realizes why he and Robin haven't gotten together, and it's because she's in love with Barney. He knows that Barney's in love with Robin from the rose petals after them not getting together thing, and now he realizes that the reason Robin doesn't love him is because she loves someone else. Barney tells Ted what happened with him and Robin, and then Robin tells Ted they can't be together. She jokingly says to him, like, hey, but like, we're still single when we're 40. And he's like, yeah, no, we can't even joke about that. Like, that can't be a real thing. Because if there's even the slightest bit of hope, I'm gonna stay waiting around for you. Like, Robin does like the full on, I don't love you. Like, no, I don't love you. That moment thing. And then Marshall goes to talk to Robin, saying that she needs to move out of the apartment for Ted's sake.
Hi, me again. Robin telling Ted she doesn't love him could conceivably be a lie, on the half of the writers because she doesn't want him sacrificing his want for kids just to be with her. Conceivably, that could be a lie that she gave. That being said, I hate it.
Season 7, episode 18, Karma, which is Quinn's stripper name, just putting that out there. They don't ever talk about like, oh my gosh, and her name is Karma, and you objectify women, so the fact that you're gonna date a stripper is really funny. They never like poke that joke, but like it's there, just letting you know. Barney and Quinn, aka Karma, they start dating. This episode's one of those like, oh, they start dating, but she's using him, but like she actually does like him, but like blah, 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 blah. Anyways, they start dating. That's the important thing. Ted tries to do 1,000 things. He like takes up woodworking. He takes up pottery. He takes up like smoking brisket or something. He's trying 1,000 things to forget Robin. And at the end of the episode, he chooses to move out of the apartment and gives it to Marshall and Lily, who have been living in Long Island where they had a house. And then Ted moves into a new apartment with no ghosts. So basically, fresh start, even though he's still friends with Barney and Robin. Season 7, episode 19, Quinn and Barney move in together. And then Quinn reveals to Barney that she would only stop stripping if she ever got married. Season 7, episode 4, buckle your seatbelts. Barney and Quinn go on a trip to Hawaii, and then they get pulled over by customs because Barney has like this big secret box. And they're like, we think there's an explosive in it. So like he's showing them the magic trick and he's unveiling it and undoing it and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the magic trick is a ring. And he proposes to Quinn. So the question of Barney getting married. Boom, boom, boom. Proposal to Quinn. Ted realizes that he is nowhere near having kids and calls Victoria on Robin's insistence. She's like, dude, who was ready to have kids? Who was the best girlfriend you ever had? Other than me. Call Victoria. And he's like, but she has a fiance, like she should be getting married. And she's like, she might not be married though. You never know how things change over the course of time. So he calls Victoria and she arrives at the bar in a wedding dress. Bum, 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 bum. He literally calls her and she's like, can you meet me in an hour? And he's like, sure. And he's like, well, I need to see if she's wearing a ring when she arrives. And Barney and Robin have banter and there's tension. I wrote that down. Tension is in all caps. Wish I had clocked what scene that was, but here we are. Ted and Victoria decide to run away together. Then they return because he's like, hey, I've been left at the altar. I know that you're just doing this because you're nervous and blah, 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 blah. Don't do this. And then she's like, no, I still don't want to marry him. So she leaves, she does the whole like leave a note shebang. And then also the guy she was gonna marry also runs away from the wedding, which makes Victoria look like the better person in this relationship. Again, them being like, no. The other person in the relationship is either a jerk or he's also a coward and they don't need to be together. Except for Kevin. Like Kevin, they were like, no, he's great. He just doesn't want to marry Robin because she can't have kids and he really wants kids, which is fair. That's a reason not to marry someone. Anyways, Ted and Victoria run away for real. And then we skip forward. We are at the Ted and Barney scene, and we have, again, I'm pretty sure Lily walks in and is like, Ted, the bride wants to see you, and we're like, okay, we're learning more about this wedding, which is probably gonna happen sometime next season. So excited to see, Barney happy with Quinn, see how their relationship works out. Just kidding! The bride is Robin! That's right, they get married. So, recap real quick. Robin admits that she is still in love with Barney. They have a super intense dance scene where you're kind of like, ooh, they should get back together. And then it's revealed that he is actually like deeply in love with Nora. So he and Nora are still together. We see Victoria has come back to town. Robin starts going to therapy because she's going crazy. Anyways, we have the introduction of Patrice. Remember her, she works with Robin. The provocative pumpkin woman returns. Barney and Robin sleep with each other and then realize that they kind of have to come clean to their partners. Barney comes clean to Nora and breaks up with her. Robin tries to come clean to Kevin, but he says he doesn't need to know. She stays with Kevin. Barney's sad, me sad. Robin reveals she might be pregnant, and if she is, it's Barney's. Robin then finds out that she can't have kids, and when Kevin proposes, she tells Kevin that, and then her and Kevin break up. Barney meets Quinn. Barney really likes Quinn. Barney and Quinn get together and move in together, but she will not stop being a stripper unless they get married.
Ted reveals to Robin that he is still in love with her, and then they finally close the door forever on that option. But Ted calls Victoria. Victoria literally ran away from her wedding to see him. They end up driving off into the sunset together, and Barney proposes to Quinn. That is where we are at the end of season 7. 2 more to go! 2 more to go! So one of the things that How I Met Your Mother does really well is giving us little clues about the mother to keep us invested. So I am reading from her Wikipedia page, and we will talk about some of those and how they do that. At the end of Lucky Penny, Ted says, "Kids, funny thing about destiny. I thought I was destined to get that job, but I was wrong. My destiny was to stay in New York, because if I hadn't, I would have never met your mother." At the end of Something Blue, future Ted closes the episode by talking about his and Robin's future and all the places Robin goes. Fun fact, he mentions even Japan for a little bit, which we see in the Ted and Stella arc. At the end of How I Met Everyone Else, Ted asks Marshall and Lily where his wife is at his college reunion. This reunion was held in 2020, and that tells us that they are married by 2020. There's also a note on here about a fan theory that predicted the ending of the show, and hate that. And wait for it, it is revealed that the mother's yellow umbrella factors into the story of how she and Ted met, so take notes. In No Tomorrow, future Ted states that his future wife was at the same St. Patrick's Day party he went to, but they didn't meet each other. When he goes back to find his phone, this is when he finds the yellow umbrella that belonged to her. The 3-day rule, future told his children that when he got their mom's phone number, he called them right away. We then see this in one of the last episodes of the show that he does in fact call her right away. So, continuity, just like with Lily's hair, we should talk about that. In The Leap, Ted is shown teaching his first class at Columbia University. I mentioned this. It's mentioned that he's in the wrong class, but not only was Cindy in this class, so was the mother. We know Cindy. She's one of the 2 characters whose picture I've kept downloaded to my phone, so when they've referenced later, I can bring them back up. In Last Cigarette Ever, future Ted reveals that he quit smoking 2 weeks into dating the mother. It says her name here, and I almost said it out loud. Spoilers. In Big Days, future Ted reveals that Ted will meet the mother on the day of a wedding that is a little ways down the road. He will be the best man at the wedding. Later revealed in Challenge Accepted in The Magician's Code to be, I don't think I can say whose wedding it is without spoiling it in this part of the timeline. If I can, it's Robin and Barney's. In Garbage Island, in a scene that flashes forward to 2021, Ted meets Wendy the waitress at an airport and tells them he is now married to a wonderful woman and has 2 kids, revealing that he has met the mother by this time and has 2 kids by 2021. In Exploding Meatball Sub, a scene set in April 2021, shows Ted wearing a wedding ring, implying that he will have met and been married to the mother by this time. Another character is not wearing a wedding ring because the show writers hate me. Yeah, the rest of these are from the last season, and the last season I will probably get to talking about all of these. We have lists of possible theories and stuff. One of my favorite things is in season 1, episode 9, I'm pretty sure, Belly Full of Turkey. Ted meets a stripper and she gives her name, and he's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Ted." And she goes, "Actually, my name is," and then she says the name of the mother. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, they literally had the mother's name in season 1. And we didn't even think about the fact that that was gonna be her name. Like, her kids would have known her name and, like, actually been surprised by that. He's obviously joking. It's not the mother who's the stripper, but that, like, so funny.
7 years ago, when Marshall and Lily got engaged, Ted saw Robin across a crowded room, and I said, "Oh yeah, you just know she likes it dirty." But Ted really liked her, so we played Have You Met Ted? They went to dinner, he walked her home, should have kissed her, didn't lame. So he stole a Smurf penis, went back to her place, should have kissed her, didn't lame. He threw 3 parties, they kissed on the roof, but decided to be friends, lame. Then Ted wanted to take Robin to a wedding. She couldn't go, he went alone and met Victoria, didn't kiss her either, lame. Not a great closer, Ted. But he finally kissed her, they started dating, she went to Germany, Ted kissed Robin, lost Victoria, Ted did a rain dance, got Robin, Ted and Robin broke up, Robin moved to Brazil, came back with a Latin stud, Ted got jealous, got a tramp stamp, not really relevant to the story, I just like mentioning that as much as possible. I hooked up with Robin, Ted and I stopped being friends, Ted got hit by a bus, we made up. Robin and I started dating, I got fat, her hair fell out. We broke up, Robin dated Dawn, I dated Nora, cheated on her with Robin, I dumped Nora, Robin dated Kevin, but not for long, and then I met you, and you took my grandpa's watch, but I fell in love with you anyway, and you let me fart in front of you, and I asked you to marry me, and you said yes, and we came over here to meet little Marvin, and that's everything. Also, I went on The Price is Right, and I want a dune buggy.
I said at the beginning of the last season that the last few seasons of this show are really good at setting up questions and then giving us like half a season to answer it. So we had the reveal of, hey, Barney's gonna get married, and then we got a season being like, okay, to who? And they told us it was Quinn, and then at the end of the season they were like, just kidding, he's marrying Robin. So now we are answering the question of how do he and Robin get married? Why did I only turn on one of my lights? Let there be light! Why did I say that like King Julian? Season 8, episode 1, we see Ted at a train station after Barney and Robin's wedding. We then flash
back to, so he's down here, like the end of the show, post-wedding. We then flash back to here, pre-wedding, but still post where we are on the timeline for season 8, talking to Robin, consoling her, because she is very stressed. We also see Barney freaking out and trying to climb out through a window. Now, these are not plot points that we are going to really solve in this episode. I'm just letting you know that both of them are uber freaking out, which I'm gonna put above the two of them because we got a lot to cover in that season. So then we go back to the current day. So remember, Ted and Victoria have run away together. Well, now Ted, being an overthinker, we love the representation, is like, well, why did he break up with Victoria? Like, why did he leave Victoria? What's wrong with Victoria? And so he goes and talks to Klaus, her ex, about this, and Klaus basically says, when you know, you know. And I knew that she wasn't that. Then flash to Barney and Robin being in that moment of like, yeah, I know, it's him, it's her, which is really sweet. The show is gonna ruin that, but it's fine. We like the really sweet and we can make our own canon. We have the might. I was gonna say, we have the cannon.
We have the cannon.
We then see Ted at the Farhampton station, which is where he was talking to Klaus because he was running away on a train. So like he's talking to Klaus, zoom in on the thing, there's a flash of lightning and it zooms back out, now it's raining. We see Ted sitting there in a tux, post-wedding, and we see the mother. We don't see her face, but she has the yellow umbrella and she's holding a guitar. So remember how we said, likes a bass player. Remember how Cindy's roommate, where the heck is Cindy? Cindy! Okay, Cindy's roommate plays the bass. So, the mother, the roommate, she right there. Season 8, episode 2, prenup. Barney makes a prenup for Quinn, and then the two realize that they like really don't trust each other, and they decide to break up. We start this episode with Ted saying that this was the autumn of breakups. Oh, also, Robin has a boyfriend named Nick. So everyone's in a relationship. We got Ted and Victoria, Barney and Quinn, Robin and Nick, and then Lily and Marshall. So he shows the 4 couples and he says, he's like, one of these couples by the end of the day will have broken up. And by the end of the season, like 3 of them will have broken up at the end of the fall. And then he's like, okay, it's not Lily and Marshall. Which again, since we, the audience, know that, you know, this is the wedding of these two, it makes sense that their relationships would break up. What we don't know is if Ted and Victoria are gonna stay together. We'll get there. But we also know that she's like not the mother, so that one's also inevitable. Season 8, episode 5, the autumn of breakups, titular episode. Ted, also in the last episode at the end of the prenup plotline, we flash forward and see Barney saying that his and Robin's wedding will be legendary and he doesn't need a prenup. Cute. Ted proposes to Victoria and Victoria says yes, but he's not allowed to be friends with Robin anymore because it makes her uncomfortable, which I think is 100% fair. Because again, he called Victoria after he said I love you to Robin. Robin said she didn't love him back. Ted tells Victoria that he can't just ignore Robin. She's like family, and Victoria's like, well, then no, I can't marry you. And she like does this like, I hate it. Okay, she does this like little lean-in thing where she like grabs his hands and she's like, I really hope you get her. That's our final impression of Victoria. And I'm like, that's not Buttercup. Buttercup would never. Season 8, episode 6, Robin needs to break up with Nick, who I have mentioned. He's here. She's having trouble doing it, so Barney goes to the restaurant she's at and gives this whole spiel.
I love everything about her, and I'm not a guy who says that lightly. I'm a guy who has faked love his entire life. I thought love was just something idiots thought they felt, but this woman has a hold on my heart that I could not break if I wanted to. And there have been times that I wanted to. It has been overwhelming and humbling and even painful at times. But I could not stop loving her any more than I could stop breathing. I am hopelessly, irretrievably in love with her. More than she knows.
Robin's kind of like, oh, you were speaking from your heart. Like, that was real. You want to get back together. And he's like, what? No, I just said that to get you to break up. Anyways, there's that. Let's put that up here, okay? Season 8, episode 7, Barney and Robin drunkenly kiss. Robin tells Barney like, hey, no, we can't do this, that would be stupid. And then she leaves, and that's kind of like where we are with Barney and Robin. But again, we know they're getting married. Season 8, episode 8, Barney and Robin act weird about the kiss, but then Barney straight up tells Robin he's not gonna pine after her anymore. I'll play this scene too.
Let me just say this. I'm done. You don't have to worry anymore.
What do you mean?
I'm done trying to get you. I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry it's taken me this long to figure it out, but I promise I'm done making a fool of myself. I want it to be okay. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna get us 2 drinks, come back, neither one of us are gonna say, hey, how's it going? Or good to see you, because it really will be good to see you.
Love that moment. Love that moment, especially in continuation with the next episode. Robin acts all girly and obsessed with Barney. She says that she often wants things that she is not allowed to have, like being told that she's allergic to shellfish and then eating shellfish until her face pretty much explodes. She decides she needs to just get him out of her system and tries a bunch of plays of her own to try and get Barney. But when she goes to his house, it is revealed that Barney is dating Patrice. Y'all remember Patrice? Robin hates Patrice, her #1 enemy. Season 8, episode 10, Robin tries to steal Barney's playbook to show Patrice so that she and Barney will break up. Barney shows Patrice the playbook. Well, not really. It's out in the open for her to find, and she sees it and she's like, what the heck is this? And he literally lights the sucker on fire. Bye-bye playbook. Ted, Marshall, and Lily hold an intervention for Robin's obsession with Barney. Season 8, episode 11, Robin tries to fire Patrice out of jealousy for her relationship with Barney. Patrice has this great moment of like, is this really about me? And she comforts Robin and gets to keep her job. Love that for Patrice. Barney gets Ted to unjinx him, long story, by showing him a ring, a proposal ring. Barney jinxes Ted to get him to be quiet, to tell him that he is going to propose to Patrice, and to tell Ted, don't tell Robin. Season 8, episode 2. Ted asks Robin to be his date to the opening of his building. Remember the building that is replacing the Arcadian. Ted tells Marshall what Barney told him, and then Ted tells Robin that Barney's going to propose. Ted tells her to go after him if that's what she wants. And then...
Step 1. Admit to yourself that you still have feelings for this girl. Step 2. Choose the completely wrong moment to make a drunken move after hanging out at a strip club. And get shot down on purpose. Step 3. Agree that you two don't work, locking the door on any future you could have together. I'm done trying to get you. I can't do it anymore. Which will drive Robin nuts. Step 4. Robin goes nuts. Step 5. Find the person who annoys Robin most in the world.
Nobody asked for your help, Patrice!
And ask for her help. This may sound kind of weird, but I have a problem. Explain everything to Patrice and hope she agrees to help.
Yay! I love Robin! Of course I'll help!
Step 8. Wait until Robin inevitably breaks into your place to find the playbook and show it to Patrice. Step 10. Prove your loyalty to Patrice by burning the playbook. And actually burn it. You don't need it anymore. Step 12. Tell only Ted about your plan to propose to Patrice. You can't tell anybody. Agreed? Step 13. Wait and see if Ted tells Robin. And if he does...
Barney's getting engaged.
It means your best bro in the world has let go of Robin and has given you his blessing. 14. Robin arrives at her favorite spot in the city and finds the secret final page of the playbook. The last play you'll ever run. Step 15. Robin realizes she's standing underneath mistletoe. Robin Scherbatsky, will you marry me?
Now, Barney and Robin are engaged. This is only episode 12. We still have half a season, and they've left everything really happy. So you might be like, what could happen? Deceit.
That's what could happen. From the writers, the show's fine. Season 8, episode 13, band or DJ. Ted really thinks that they should have a DJ at their wedding. Lily thinks they should have a band. Lily gets Ted to admit that he is not okay with Robin and Barney getting married. And then we have a flash forward, and Ted has run into Cindy, again, remember, the roommate, telling them that he's on their way to Barney and Robin's wedding and that the band has canceled. And Cindy tells him that her bass player roommate has a band and they're available. So this would be... I have been putting everything up on the timeline wrong. No! Okay, I fixed it. That's season 8, this is season 9. You think I would have realized that sooner. Before the wedding, but we're at the wedding is what's down that way. Post-wedding, wedding. You might be like, that's a lot of space for a wedding. Yeah, they give a lot of screen time to it. Cindy says, my bass player roommate's band is available. We flash forward again to after the wedding, but Ted has not left the wedding yet. And we see Ted seeing the mom for the first time. We do not see the mom, but we see her backside and we see that she is playing the bass. Season 8, episode 14. Barney lives vicariously through Ted's hookup until he's cleansed from his own ways, and Robin gets annoyed about how less special she feels now that she's wearing her ring. But they both compromise and realize that they love each other more than the things of the past, her being single and getting free drinks and him sleeping around. They decide they love each other more than those things, and they're gonna commit to each other. Season 8, episode 15, P.S. I love you. Barney obsesses over finding out who Robin had stalked at one point, uncovering another music video. Robin finds it endearing because she loves him and he loves her, and she likes the fact that he wants to know. Ted starts dating his stalker Jeanette, and he says, before every person meets the person they marry, they make one big mistake. For me, that mistake was Jeanette. Season 8, episode 18. Barney reveals to Ted that he has a backup playbook. Robin finds out and gets mad. The picture I have is of Jeanette finding it, because that's what they had on the IMDb, and also I thought it was funny. Barney allows Jeanette to destroy the real playbook, and then Jeanette destroys all of Ted's stuff after finding the playbook and assuming it is his. Ted and Jeanette break up. Obviously, she has literally, I say, oh, she destroys his stuff. She sets stuff on fire and is like tossing it out the window. This is another thing that the show does, where it's like, and that mistake was Jeanette, and it's him sitting on the sidewalk with like fire coming down from the building. So we know Jeanette Cray going into it. We're just waiting to see it. Season 8, episode 20, The Time Travelers. So you know how I said, oh yeah, the coat check girl. She's in one episode, I wish she had come back. I had forgotten she came back. So, surprise to both of us, coat check girl has come back. She is sitting at the bar and Ted remembers her and wants to go talk to her, but he doesn't because he thinks, well, every other relationship I've had has ended poorly. Why would I go talk to her? And the episode ends with Ted saying if he could go back to that exact day, he would run straight to the mother's house, I have the name written down again, and meet her 45 days early just to have 45 more days with her. Why does he need 45 more days with her? Well, because the show writers hate us. And we will get into all of that in season 9, because I don't want to talk about it right now. Season 8, episode 23, Something Old. Robin goes crazy looking for a locket she had buried when she was a teenager visiting New York. She wants to find that to be her something old, but she is also going a little crazy thinking that if she doesn't find it, it means that her and Robbie? Who the heck is Robbie? Thinking that her and Barney are meant to be if she is able to find the locket. She doesn't find it. She calls Barney, and Barney is doing laser tag with her dad, which is good because then it's like, oh look, he gets along with her father. But she also calls him, needing him, and he doesn't show up. So she takes that as like another sign and freaking calls Ted. Now Ted shows up and she's telling Ted all of her doubts about everything. And Ted says, screw the signs. He has believed the signs and they've gotten him nowhere. He has waited for the signs to lead him to his future wife, and they have not led him there yet because this has not happened to him yet. So he says, screw the signs, they've gotten him nowhere, and then she holds his hand reassuringly. We will get back to this moment. Season 8, episode 24, Something New. Ted decides that his something new is moving to Chicago because obviously New York is not working out for him. Even though he literally built a building. But I guess also like once you've built the building in the skyline, you're kind of like, well, let's try Chicago now. He is going to sell his dream house that, remember, he had bought somewhere on this timeline. Lily figures out that Ted is only moving because Robin's getting married.
Which is stupid. Ted says he would open a vein in his arm to bleed out the locket that Robin is missing if he could. And then Lily reveals that she knows what happened to the locket. Flashback to after Ted and Stella get engaged, to find that Robin was upset. We see Robin get drunk, find the locket, and put it in a pencil box. And then Lily says, but we don't know where the pencil box is, so, you know, that kind of doesn't matter. And Lily says, he knows where the pencil box is. Ted tells Lily that he'll take the train back to the city after the wedding so he can catch his flight to Chicago. Like, as soon as the wedding is over, bye. He's leaving. And then we cut to the train station where we're like, oh, he's gonna buy his ticket. No. Instead, we see this. She has a name. We will not find out her name until the last episode, so I am not saying her name until the last episode. That is my goal. After we run into Cindy, she gets her ticket. All right, this is editing Abby. I did not do a recap. Also, I have edited the timeline since last time because it's gonna need to be formatted differently for when I do season 9. Here is the recap real quick. All right, so we started off, Ted talks to Klaus about why he and Victoria didn't work out, like why he had left the wedding, and he pretty much just says, if you know, you know, and he knew that Victoria wasn't it for him. Barney and Quinn break up because Barney wanted to have a prenup for Quinn because he didn't trust her. She also did not trust him. Ted and Victoria date for a while, but it ends up not working out because Victoria does not want him to continue to be friends with Robin. Girl, fair enough. Anyways, we then get this scene where Robin and her then boyfriend Nick break up because Barney confesses his love for Robin. Barney drunkenly tries to kiss Robin and she basically says, no, that's not gonna work. Then they are really awkward about it and he says, I'm done chasing you. We're done with this. I can't do it anymore. He is dating Patrice, but not really because it's for the plot. He burns the playbook, not for the plot, that's for real, and then he ends up proposing to Barney, to Robin. He does not propose to himself, though honestly, I would have seen that plot line as something that could have happened. We find out about Robin daggers and the whole music video, and he's obsessive with finding out who she was in love with during that period, and it's just like a phase she went through. Ted dates this crazy lady named Jeanette, who finds Barney's old playbook, which it's not the old playbook, it's a copy of the playbook. It's like his life's work, that's why he hadn't gotten rid of it, but also, yes, it did get rid of a nice moment. I don't like that they did that. We have the time travel episode where Ted sees Coat Check Girl again, justice for Coat Check Girl, woohoo, we found it. He does not actually go up to talk to her because he is kind of getting into a depressive state. However, he does reflect that if he had been able to time travel back to that day, he would go and have 45 more minutes with the mother. Next, we have Ted comforting Robin in a moment where Barney should have been there. We will come back to this moment, so I'm not commenting on it. Ted decides he's moving to Chicago, and he wants to find the locket that Robin was wanting to find, but doesn't know where it is. Lily does know what happens to it. He thinks he knows where it is, but he does not find it by the end of this season. After this, in the timeline, but before in the episode time, he runs into Cindy, talking to her about how they do not have a band for the wedding anymore because they canceled, and she recommends her roommate, who has a name, but we will not get to the name yet, and the roommate is now going to the wedding. Also, earlier in the season, we saw that Barney and Robin will both be freaking out about the wedding. We know that Ted will see the mother while she's playing bass guitar, but he does not talk to her yet. He is going to meet her at the Farhampton station. That is where we are at the end of season 8. Literally just got done listening to a voice message from my friend who also agrees with me on some of these facts. Also, Joshua, if you're watching this, I am sorry that we disagree about Barney and Robin. I'm not saying they're the healthiest couple, but I'm saying the show could have done better for them. Anyways, let's talk about them. Barney and Robin, what do I like, what do I not like? We're not talking about the ending of the show yet because I don't want to, but regardless, what do I think of them? I think, unpopular opinion, I think they're a better match than Robin and Ted. I'd say unpopular opinion because apparently the show writers are ride or die Robin and Ted, which is insane to me. Barney and Robin, neither one wanted kids or really saw themselves married. And so the fact that they're the ones who get together seems like poetic. Like, look, these two people who didn't want these specific things both grew into who they were and then grew into a relationship with each other. I think that's great. I love that. We talked about this earlier. We talked about this earlier when I talked about Barney. I'm a huge fan of redemption, and that's not just me being a Jesus girl, but I do really like that people change and people grow. And again, I've mentioned this earlier, love is a choice. And I think for Barney and Robin, that choice being difficult for them, but them making that choice regardless for each other is beautiful. I really like that. I don't like what the show writers decide to do at the end of season 9, but we don't have to talk about that because the entirety of season 9 is their wedding. So we get to see all of the good and all of the bad setup for the ending of the show in season 9. What else do I really like about Barney and Robin? I like that because again, this show is 9 seasons, they have to do that. They date and then they break up and they get back together. I like that they broke up. Again, not every couple that breaks up should get back together. And maybe that's also the case for Barney and Robin, what do I know? But I really like that they were like, hey, these two don't know how to function in relationships, let alone with each other. Let's let them separate, grow as people, and then if they need to, for the plot of the show, come back together, they can. Now, obviously, they do need to come back together for the plot of the show because season 9 is literally one weekend and it's their wedding. That's kind of all I can say at this moment without like going into like the future of the show with the last season. But that's kind of where I am with it. Now, you might be wondering, Abby, why do Barney and Robin work, but Ted and Robin don't? Well, the difference is, we as an audience are not expecting it to be Robin. When it comes to who Ted's wife will be, we as an audience are like, not Robin. And then the show sets up, okay, now Robin's gonna get Barney so that Barney and Robin both have someone. And you as an audience member are like, okay, cool. And then Ted gets the wife, right? And then the end of the show is like, the end of the show is the end of the show. And at the end of the day, I literally am not rewatching the last couple episodes. I didn't when I was watching it for fun. And then when I decided to watch this video, I was gonna watch them. And then I unplugged my TV because I'm fasting from media of sorts, specifically if it's on my TV. And I'm not gonna watch it. I'm gonna read the Wikipedia pages, finish updating the script, and then we will talk about season 9. But yeah, I think Ted and Robin was set up as they're too different. They were going for right person, wrong time. And I actually have an idea about Ted and Robin and how that could have worked, but we will talk about that after the show. So let's go ahead and get into season 9 before I keep talking for too long.
Hold me close and hold me as this magic spell won't last. I'm dressed for a wedding. Welcome to season 9. A great season of television and an awful season of television. We will talk about that when I get to the ending, and then we will have something fun at the end of this video. I'm just gonna get into it. You're gonna start to see things unfold that I have refrained from talking about. So here we go. Also, the pictures I have is probably not gonna actually fill this whole timeline because there was less, that needs to be on the timeline things than I thought there would be. And also having trouble finding pictures again. This show's been out for forever. Why can I not find pictures for it? Season 9, episode 1, The Locket. As we remember from the end of season 8, Robin was wanting to find this one specific locket to be her something old at the wedding, and Ted really wants to find it for her. Now, it is revealed that the locket was supposed to be in a pencil box, and we're going to discover later down the road that Ted has called 3 different exes to try and get this thing back. So number 1, he calls Victoria, who had taken the pencil box with her to Germany, and she ships it back to him from wherever she is now. The package is intercepted by crazy old Jeanette. The pencil box did not have the locket, so he flies out to California to check the storage locker of Stella to see if it's there. He does end up finding it. He gives it to Barney to give to Robin. It's kind of sweet, but also like, dude went a little crazy there. However, in this episode, we see Lily meet the mother. They really hit it off. The mother is literally perfect for Ted, and the two fight. They end up on really good terms. Season 9, episode 2, Robin shares that Barney only believes in love because his brother is married. Because there was not really a father figure in his life, he does not have a good view of marriage, but because his brother, who was like Barney at one point, was able to get married and have a successful marriage, Barney now believes in love. However, it is revealed Barney's brother is getting a divorce. And so Robin is like, oh crap, Barney's gonna freak out and not marry me because of this. But Barney ends up stating that he knows Robin is right for him. And when he is talking to James about James's divorce, he reaches over for her hand and she's kind of like his anchor in that moment, which I think is really sweet. Season 9, episode 3, 52 hours before the wedding, Barney tells Ted that he saw Ted and Robin at the carousel. You see, Barney knew that it was important to Robin that he showed up, and he did. But when he showed up, Ted was there, which shows that Robin was still turning to Ted, even though she only should have been turning to Barney, but also she thought Barney wasn't going to show up. Communication is a problem for them, and it's one of those things where, like, okay, we see that communication is a problem. What do? We start communicating better. Really, all Barney and Robin need to have a successful marriage is a little bit of couples counseling. Season 9, episode 4, The Broken Code, which is the bro code. Barney gets mad at Ted for comforting Robin, saying that it was weird. The two go to the beach to hold hands platonically to prove that it wasn't weird. And guess what? It was weird. Anyways, in this episode, Barney figures out that Ted still has feelings for Robin. Season 9, episode 6, Ted has 2 choices for people to be with at the wedding, and he ends up choosing this girl whose character name I can't remember, but is played by the fabulous Anna Camp. That's right. 2, 3, 4. Oh, 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 whoa, 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 yeah. Da-da. That Anna Camp. Pitch perfect Anna Camp. He ends up with Anna Camp for the weekend, but she has just been broken up with, and he's stuck with her, consoling her the whole weekend. Ted, in the future, states that if he had not been in this crap hole of a situation of consoling this girl all weekend, he wouldn't have actually been able to get together with the mother. Season 9, episode 7, Barney and Robin realize that the two of them don't communicate well. Gee, if only there was a therapy that could provide for that. Good thing this video is sponsored by Season 9, episode 8, The Lighthouse. Robin beefs with Barney's mom and then lets it spill that she can't have kids. Okay, so I was wrong earlier. Barney and Robin do not have that I can't have kids moment where he consoles her then. It happens then on the her figuring out she can't have kids era over here. But we see it now. Barney's mom makes a comment to Robin like, oh, well, my grandchildren, and she's just kind of like, well, you won't have to worry about that. Then Barney's like, Robin can't have kids, Mom. And she goes to comfort her in that moment. I'm going back now. Season 9, episode 2, Ted remarks that he's gonna come back to the Fairhampton Inn when he has the right person. We then see him celebrating an anniversary there. And then in the Lighthouse episode, we have the, I wanna come back to this lighthouse when I'm not alone. I wanna come back with the right person. And that's where he proposes. Season 9, episode 9. This is a flashback episode, so it takes place in the city. What happens in this episode is Robin and Lily give Barney a bunch of pickup challenges, and he is in a drugstore. He tries to pick up the mother. And she's immediately like, there's something wrong with you. You need help. Whoever she is, like, you need to blah, 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 blah. If you actually love her, go and get her. I'm gonna put it under close. It's around here-ish. So after this, canonically, after Quinn, but before this goes into play, I think I'm just gonna switch it with Victoria. We also see Ted get the job offer in Chicago, where we now know he is moving to. Season 9, episode 12, rehearsal dinner. Robin and Barney have another fight about how often they lie to each other, and it is revealed that Barney threw Robin a surprise rehearsal dinner in an ice hockey rink because she wanted to have the wedding in Canada, and that ended up not working out. So again, the show is setting up, yes, they are dysfunctional, but it works. Like, he doesn't lie to her because he's like hiding something. Like, he's not still sleeping around. He's not hiding bad things from her. He's hiding surprises from her. Season 9, episode 13, Marshall has been, so he was spending time in Minnesota with his family, so he has baby Marvin with him. They were on a bus. The bus ended up breaking down, and he has decided, I'm going to walk the 13-something miles to Farhampton. He gets a lift from the mother. She has stolen the van of the person who was in charge of the band for the wedding. Remember, this is her band. So this guy, Darren, played by Andrew Rannells. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but I have listened to falsettos. Darren is pretty much the devil, and this is what we discover in the scene with the mother and Marshall, is that it was her band. He basically took over the band and then posted when they got the gig for Robin and Barney's wedding, bass player wanted, basically kicking her out of the band. In retaliation, she has stolen his van. Now, being who she is, she was just gonna fill it up with gas, drive it around a couple times, and then park it back. No, anyways, this guy is awful. He is like sowing seeds of deceit amongst the group, and he spills the news to Barney that Ted is moving to Chicago. And then Barney figures out that Ted is moving because of Robin. Ted punches Darren in the face.
Darren, after getting punched in the face, comes stumbling into the bar where the mother is, and the mother, after seeing that he got punched in the face, she goes to the bartender and she goes, Linus, I want you to buy your nicest scotch for whoever punched him. So then he goes to Ted and gives him the nicest scotch, and that is the first time they have interacted but not met. Season 9, episode 15. We see Ted and the mother in 2017. It's around here somewhere. She is going into labor, and Ted makes a comment that their kid cannot be born after 2 a.m. because, superstitious rule of Ted, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. We head back to 2013, which is when the wedding is taking place, and we see Robin and Ted with a Jabba drunk Barney, which means he is so drunk he has started talking like Jabba the Hutt. He also is telling the truth a lot. So Barney reveals that Robin came from Monday. Ted and Robin also get him to reveal what he does at Goliath National Bank, which is pretty much he signs anything they put in front of him, so that if anyone is liable, it's Barney. He's the fall guy. He also reveals, after that Ted and Robin freak out about that, he reveals that he has been working with the government to try and take the company down, and it is revealed that they do that sometime after the wedding. Flash forward again, we see the mother leaving around 2 a.m. to give birth. Ted says that he and Penny are proud of her, revealing that their daughter's name is Penny, which is something we did not know. And then Ted then says to his kids, nothing good happens after 2 a.m., but every rule has one exception. For us, the exception was you, Luke. We did know that his son's name was Luke because he jokes about wanting to name his kids Luke and Leia. So that one we knew. Season 9, episode 16. In 2007, her roommate Kelly goes to the wrong bar, passing by Ted and Barney as they play a round of Have You Met Ted? It is the mother's 21st birthday, and they are waiting for her boyfriend Max to show up. Then she gets a phone call, and it is revealed that Max has died. After the funeral, she opens up the gift he had gotten her, and it is a ukulele. I do not have pictures for any of this, but 2007 would have been around here. 2009, the mother is in her econ class when Ted shows up and, teaches the wrong class. She assumes she's in the wrong class and leaves, and then she sees him rushing to his class because he was actually the one in the wrong class, and realizes her mistake and heads back. In 2010, sometime in this part of the timeline, on St. Patrick's Day, her roommate Kelly encourages her to get back out there. She goes and she leaves her umbrella at the bar. When she goes back to get it, she finds that some inconsiderate person stole it. Months later, her umbrella comes back, remember, because Ted was at the apartment and left the umbrella. April 2012, the mother meets Lewis. The two start dating, but he is not on board with her show tunes and quirkiness. Shake my head. We will get back to him. 2013, current year. Mother's band is booked for Robin and Barney's wedding, and she is staying at Lewis's cottage, which is not too far from the Fairhampton Inn where the wedding is taking place. We flash forward a few months and we see Darren's ad for a bass player. After the comeuppance of him getting punched by Ted, she returns to Lewis's and Lewis proposes. She takes a minute to go outside and she talks to Max. She literally looks up to the heavens and is talking to him, and she's like, I feel like I'm doing wrong by you. I don't know if this is what I want, if this is what you would want, I don't know. There's a gust of wind and she takes that as a sign, and she goes inside and she declines to his proposal, and she checks in to the Fairhampton Inn. And she pulls out the ukulele, which we as the audience know that she got from her ex, Max, and she starts singing La Vie en Rose, and we see Ted listening to her play. This is one of my favorite scenes, and I'm really sad I can't play it in this video, because if anything is getting copyrighted, it is for sure that scene. Ted goes inside to tell Barney about the song that he had just heard, and we discover that Barney is missing. Season 9, episode 17. Robin and Ted walk along the beach, and they rank his exes, which I am gonna do at the end of this, so hang on for that. Barney has left. He goes and meets two random guys, and he teaches them all of the rules and plays that he has ever made up, and writes a new version of the playbook down on napkins because he's giving it to them. Anyways, and then he goes back to the wedding and he's ready to get married. Robin asks Ted if he keeps in touch with any of his exes. He says no, and then future Ted, our narrator, tells us that this is a lie because he had to contact Jeanette, Victoria, and Stella to get the locket. We also start this episode with Ted talking about a balloon and how you let it go. And then he remarks that he has now let go of Robin. It's a lie. Again, I feel like the writers are trying to have it both ways. And if you don't know where the ending of the show is going, we're about to get there. Season 9, episode 18, we are in 2021, somewhere down here, and Ted and the mother are celebrating the release of her book. We love a writer. Please buy my books, lulu.com.
Did I put that on the timeline just to say that? Maybe. Season 9, episode 19, Ted and the mother visit the Farhampton Inn and get snowed in. They are sharing stories to pass the time, and the stories are of the wedding. None of them are of plot consequence. But we have a moment of Robin's mom shows up for the wedding, and they thought she wouldn't show up, and the mother remarks, well, what kind of mother would miss her own daughter's wedding? And Ted gives her a really sad look, and she's kind of like, hey, don't think about that. Tell me the rest of the story. Season 9, episode 20. Robin's mom remarks on Robin's dad and their divorce, and Robin notes the similarities between her dad, who, is divorced to her mother, and Barney, her future husband. Robin's mom and Robin realize that Barney is a lot more sincere than her dad was, and this is shown in the fact that he's willing to hug people, something that Robin's dad would never in a million years do. Barney's someone who will show physical signs of intimacy and, care and love. And so then Robin notices, okay, Barney is nothing like my dad. This is gonna be okay. Season 9, episode 22, The End of the Aisle. Barney and Robin have the aforementioned panic over getting married. This is way too far over on the timeline, but it's fine. But they do go through the wedding and they do get married. I am gonna move these over now. Also important to mention that during Robin's panic over getting married, this is when she meets the mother. Season 9, episodes 23 and 24, Last Forever. Ted is thinking about his move to Chicago. Barney recognizes the bass player as the reason he and Robin are even together. He goes and he tells her about that, and then he goes to Ted and says, hey, let me introduce you to, and Ted declines, because Ted is resolved to have moved on and to be moving to Chicago. Ted says goodbye to the group. It is a very long and heartwarming scene. I actually really like this scene. It's very the end of Friends, the end of The Office. It's very much like, wow, this is the end of something. And then we cut to McLaren's bar the next day, and Marshall's remarking upon wow, I can't believe Ted's gone, and boom, Ted's still there. So it turns out that he met someone. Gee, I wonder who. We cut back to this clip of him meeting the mom is in this area, but he has not actually met her on screen yet, so we will get there. 2015, Ted is now engaged. Barney is discussing his marital issues, and the mother tells Ted they need to move up their wedding date.
I didn't wire the payment because I don't think we can get married in September.
What? Why?
Because when I do get married, I kind of want to fit in my dress.
Why wouldn't you? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
2016, Marshall is miserable in his job. Barney and Robin have divorced. We'll talk about that in a minute. October 2016, Barney returns to his old ways. Robin's depressed. Robin reveals that she's sad that Ted and the mother are married. 2019, Barney got a girl pregnant. Now he has a daughter. This scene's actually really sweet. I'll let part of it play out.
You are the love of my life. Everything I have and everything I am is yours. Forever.
I'm putting that here on the timeline because, again, I don't remember all of this super well. 2020, Ted proposes again to the mother because she got pregnant the first time. They have not actually gotten married. I think that's what's happening. Barney scolds some girls for being inappropriate, proving he can still grow as a character even if he's not with Robin. 2013, we skip back, and Ted speaks to the mother. Play scene.
Excuse me. Hi.
Hi.
I'm
the best man. Yeah, get in here.
Oh, thanks. Here. Let me.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Great show tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're Cindy's ex-roommate, right?
Yeah. And you are the professor. I took one of your classes.
Really? Which one?
Econ 305.
I'm 305. I don't teach. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm gonna jump onto the tracks now.
No, don't. You were great. You were great.
Wait a second. This is my umbrella. I left this umbrella at Cindy's. You totally stole my umbrella.
What? No, I didn't. This is my umbrella. I bought this.
Excuse me. It even has my initials on it right here, TM, Ted Mosby.
Yeah, look again, Ted Mosby. Those are my initials. TM, Tracy McConnell.
No, Tracy McConnell. It's TM, totally my umbrella.
You're TM, terribly mistaken. Because this umbrella has always belonged, TM, to me.
Now I gotta talk about the end of the show, which I do not have scripted, so bye computer. So it is hinted at, as you may have noticed with this scene in particular, or if you recall the Time Travelers episode, If I Could Do Anything, I Would Go Back and Have 45 More Days with the mother. I can now call her by her name. Her name is Tracy. It is revealed that the mother has passed away from an unknown disease. And we end the show with Ted finishing the story. He says, and kids, that's how I met your mother. And then the kids say, that story's not about mom. That story is totally about how you're still in love with Aunt Robin. You should go after her. So he goes, he steals the blueprint horn again, and then him and Robin get together. If I'm talking about this in this tone, it is because I do not like this ending. In fact, we are going to sit down and talk about it. So, the ending of this show, you may realize that it's kind of sucky. You might like Ted and Robin together, and that is fine. That is what the writers wanted you to do. You are, however, in the minority. I hate this ending so stinking much because we spend so much time building up characters. We spend the entire last season getting glimpses of who Tracy is as a character and why she works for Ted before we even see her and Ted really together. I mean, we get glimpses of them, like they're not canonically like, here's before she meets Ted, here's after she meets Ted. They're sprinkled together, but a lot of what we get to know about her and how she works as a character and why she's good for Ted, we see while she's apart from Ted, while she's talking to Marshall, or while she's talking to Lily, or Robin, or Barney. We see things that make us go, okay, that's why they're gonna work. That's really exciting. What sucks is that they killed her off. I think if this show was a drama, and it's weird to say that the show's not a drama, but the draw of the show is the fact that it is a sitcom whose characters you really care about. They're really developed. There's these really heartfelt moments, half of which have filled up the timeline, because the writers were really good at what they did. The one thing the writers did wrong, and I'm not 100% blaming them for this, is they chose the ending of the show too early, and then were like, let's work towards that, but they didn't do it well. I mentioned earlier, I feel like I have a solution for this. We'll talk about that in a second. In season 2, they realized that the actors who played Ted's kids were aging, and that if the show was going to last as long as it did end up lasting, they needed to record all of those reactive bits and stuff now. However, it wasn't just the reacting bits of like the sitting here listening to Dad tell his story, it was also the ending of the show.
Editing Abby jumping again to say, they did a like season 9 preview with the aged up version of the actors being like, you've been telling the story for 10 years, get over it, finish the story, how did you meet mom? Like that kind of vibe. They could have done that. It's a sitcom. They could have had the overaged, aged up actors playing Ted's kids just wearing some makeup and pretend we don't notice, or even make a joke about it of like, wow, how long have I been telling the story? Like, it's a sitcom. They could have redone the ending with the kids grown up because it's a sitcom. Also, if they had continued to record the bits of them like reacting to their dad telling them the story, the notice of them aging would have been less. It wouldn't have been like a lack of continuity, but people would have been forgiving to that over time compared to the ending we got. Come on, people.
Season 2 is very early. This is before Barney has entered the timeline of the Robin Ted timeline. This is before we get to know too much about the mother. They had decided that no, this is the ending of the show. Ted ends up with Robin. I think that's fine. I don't like it. I think it's a fine idea in theory.
In Execution, we then had 7 more seasons of them adding Barney as a love interest, showing that Barney and Robin had better chemistry, showing that Robin actually liked Barney more than Ted because she was actually willing to marry him, showing those characters grow on their own. And I wrote this down. The one thing that I don't like about Robin and Ted is it doesn't give Ted growth. Ted doesn't grow a whole lot as a character in comparison to Robin and Barney, and I think that's because Robin and Barney as characters needed more growth than Ted, so they got more dedicated time to that growth. I don't mind that Ted doesn't grow, because again, you start the show, you like Ted. Ted's a good guy. But because he keeps obsessing over Robin, specifically in a romantic way, it really makes it feel like his growth is stunted or that there isn't any growth at all. So when he does meet the mother, you're kind of like, okay, good, Ted gets what he wants, what he needs, and it's not Robin. Only to then be like, no, but he also gets Robin. Again, the show wants to do it both ways. The show writers realized that people liked Barney and Robin together, and that the actors were good together. So they said, okay, let's put those 2 characters together, let them get married. But then they went on to divorce them. And again, if love is a choice, which I am a strong believer that it is, and we see Barney and Robin again and again being like, hey, here's this thing we need to work on. Okay, let's reaffirm our love, commit to each other, and choose to love each other despite these things. Let's work past them and through them. Again, they just needed therapy. That's all they really needed. Instead of that, it becomes this, oh, we don't work, but we do because we love each other, but we don't work, but we do because we love each other. Oh, we don't work. Yes, we do because we love each other. Oh, we don't work. Let's get divorced. And sometimes that's how things work in the real world. This is a sitcom. This shouldn't be the real world. Again, I feel like maybe the writers, and this is just me theorizing, do not take this as verbatim, maybe the writers thought, hey, we can do a bittersweet ending because that's what other sitcoms have done. I don't know, this ended in 2014, so at this point I know Friends and The Office had ended. I think Parks and Rec had also ended, so they could look at some blueprints that had gone before them and say, okay, well maybe we can do this. At the end of Friends, the friends are no longer living in the same place. They are all moving out, different partners, or just Joey, and doing different things. They're no longer going to be that community of friends in that city. They'll be spread out, and that doesn't mean they're not friends anymore. It's kind of bittersweet because they won't be together, even if you know as an audience they're still friends. The Office. Okay, Jim and Pam are now moving to Texas or something. Michael hasn't been here for a while. Dwight's still there, but Kevin's been fired. You know, like it's all over the place with how we feel. But we look at them in that final scene where Creed is singing the song before they leave. And we're kind of sitting there like, yeah, they're moving apart. But like, you know, this was a family. This was a nice place. I'm glad I could have been here for the ride while we were here. How I Met Your Mother doesn't do that. How I Met Your Mother kind of does like, aw, look. Barney and Robin got divorced because Robin still loves Ted. It would be really great if they were together, right? If only there was a way they could get together. Oh, Ted's wife died. If only there was a way Robin and Ted could get together. I feel like that's fine. But again, because we have now seen 9 seasons of back and forth of like, hey, we don't work as a couple. Hey, I don't love you like that. Hey. And again, I mentioned that Robin could have been lying to Ted when she told Ted that she didn't love him. It could have been a lie because she can't have kids and she knew that Ted would be giving that up for her. And out of love, even if it's not romantic love, she didn't want him to give that up for her. That's fine. It's not shown. I think, again, if Robin was okay being single before Barney and you want her to be single for Ted, don't put her with Barney. I like her with Barney. I think the two of them have great chemistry. I like the scenes they're in together. I like them as a couple. For a sitcom, they're probably one of my favorite sitcom couples. Should I rank those next? Is that a different video? But that being said, they put her with Barney. So then they have to divorce her from Barney. Again, I was like listing off, here we step into the future and here's what happened. Marshall's unhappy in his job, which makes Lily unhappy. Robin and Barney got divorced. Blah, 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 blah. The only one happy is Ted, and then his wife dies. Like, this is not a bittersweet ending. This is, what the heck did you do? You had everything good until the last 3 episodes. Other than, and again, this is why I usually don't watch the last 2 episodes when I rewatch the show. The last time I watched this show, I didn't rewatch like the last 5 episodes. I got halfway through season 9 and it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, they really were gonna be like, Barney and Robin aren't good as a couple. Then don't let them get married. I know that's not how the real world always works, but again, this is my sitcom. I don't want them to get married if you're just gonna divorce them and put Robin with Ted. Do you see why I'm upset? Me again. I'd like to point out that when I first saw this show, I didn't know. Nobody told me. I knew that people didn't like the last episode like 2 years before I watched it. When I watched it, I had forgotten. So I'm watching and they're like, oh, we're divorced. And I'm sitting here like, you just got married. You can't get divorced. You got married like 20 seconds ago. I was at your wedding. We spent a whole season at your wedding and you just got divorced. And then I get to the end and he gets together with Robin. And my dad was literally, he was helping me, he was putting shelves in my closet. And I was like literally like standing there like, what the heck? And he's like, what? And I was like, he ends up with Robin. And Dad was like, oh yeah, you didn't know that? And I was like, no! Nobody told me he was gonna end up with Robin. The show didn't tell me he was gonna end up with Robin. What is happening? So just, that was my organic response when I first saw the show. Just letting you know. How I think they could have fixed this. Either look at your network dead in the eye and say, hey, we're not gonna make this an overbloated show that goes on for 9 seasons. I like this show, by the way. I like that there's 9 seasons. I like that I can spend 2 months of my life putting this on in the evening, watching it. That being said, you didn't have to do 9 seasons. You knew the kids were gonna grow up. Let's say, hey, we'll do 3 seasons and then see what happens next. Okay? Do the ending the way you want it to do. Maybe we move on from the plot being the mother. Maybe he meets the mother in season 3. Here's what me, myself, and I am saying they could have done to have made this ending better with 9 seasons. Don't keep putting Robin and Ted together. They have this ongoing bit throughout the entire show where it's like, oh, well, Ted, like Barney will say, well, Ted, as your best friend, and then Ted will be like, Marshall's my best friend, and Marshall will be like, I'm his best friend, like, you know, it's like this whole thing where it's like, who's Ted's real best friend? Obviously it's Marshall, and Barney thinks it's him. It's funny. What they should have done is around season 3 somewhere, instead of having the on again, off again, Ted and Robin thing, they should have made Robin Ted's best friend. She could have constantly been there for them. She could have loved him without having to have it as romantic love. Just have them be really good friends. They don't sleep together for no reason, just because there's no milk in the fridge. They don't keep saying, I love you. They know that they are just friends and that they are good people for each other, but not the right people for each other. Because again, Ted wants kids, Robin wants her career. That way, as friends, he can be sad that she's moving away, but he doesn't have to be depressed that she's moving away. And she can look at him dating these people and be like, I'm happy for him, instead of, and I know that's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask for these characters in a sitcom to be mature in a way that they're not gonna be. That's fine. Again, I'm 21. I've been in one single relationship in high school. I was homeschooled. What do I know? The writers could have made them really good friends. Like, given Ted and Robin the same dynamic that Ted and Marshall have. Make them really, really good friends. And then the whole thing with Barney happens and he's like weirded out by it, but it's not like a jealousy thing. And then just don't let Robin and Barney get married. Don't let them get married. Don't give them the commitment to each other despite their flaws, only to take that away after a couple years of marriage. Your audience doesn't like that. And instead, let Ted get married, let Robin be happy, let Robin have that successful career she wanted, and then just realize, no, I'm done traveling, I just want to be back in New York. And she ends up back in New York after Tracy has died. I don't want Tracy to die. But if that's the ending they're going to stick with, that's fine. And then he tells their story, and then the kids could have asked instead, and again, this would be a rewrite, which is not something they would do because they recorded the ending at a certain time. Instead of it being like, you're totally in love with Aunt Robin, it could be like, hey Dad, why don't you ever see, like, why don't you and Aunt Robin date? Like, not that we, like, don't miss Mom, but that being said, like, that's your, like, that's your best friend, like, y'all obviously really get along. And so then, like, he calls her up or whatever, and we have the Blue French Horn moment. And I feel like it's more satisfying when it's two people who genuinely have that relationship you can root for, instead of two people who are toxic. Especially since we're told in the show that, like, Robin, in the episode where Robin dates the guy who has a kid, he draws a picture and she's like, she says something about it, and then Ted says something about it, like, you know that your Aunt Robin never blah, 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 but she has all of your pictures, every picture you've drawn. Like, Robin loves Ted's kids. I think that could have played into it a little bit. Like, she does like kids, she just didn't want any of her own. She never saw herself having them, but she likes Ted's kids, and they're already a part of her life. Again, there's just little things they could have done to have made this healthier and more satisfying as an ending. I don't like Robin and Ted because y'all told me they were toxic, and now you're putting them together. You told me that Barney and Robin would keep committing to each other even though there were flaws in the relationship. But no, they don't even try therapy. They just get divorced and Barney has a kid with someone else. And I like the show, but I don't like the ending. So the last season's kind of sad because they keep being like, look, Barney and Robin aren't good for each other. Aw, Ted's sad about the mom. I wonder why. Aw, she's dying. It's not the best last season of television. That being said, it's fun to watch when you don't know. I'm hoping all of y'all have seen it so that I'm not spoiling it for you. But also if you all have seen it, this video probably wouldn't be as interesting and intriguing. So, you know, I win either way. That's my rant on How I Met Your Mother. This has been recording for 41 minutes and I still have to edit it. And now I'm going to take a break to rank Ted's exes. Actually, I think I'm just gonna rank all of the major couples. And that'll be the end of the video, so thanks. All right, welcome to my bathtub as I rank all of the exes. This is happening right under the timeline. I have all of the different important relationships. Coat check girl is not on here. We're gonna start with Ted and then we'll rank Barney and Robin's love interests in there. Starting with last place, we're gonna go with the obvious. Jeanette literally was made to be crazy, and we love that for her. Next up, and unpopular opinion probably, I have Zoe, who is also going to stay towards the bottom. I don't like Zoe, for the same reason I don't like Robin and Ted. They don't fit. They do nothing but bicker. And he's unhappy, like, pretty much the whole time he's with her, which he says at some point. Like, he loves her, but like, don't like them as a couple. Do not like them as a couple. Above her, but like just barely, we have Stella. Most people put Stella lower, including Robin, because, you know, Stella ran away from the wedding and she shouldn't have been dating if she was in love with someone else. That being said, I like Stella as a character before we get that, oh, she was in love with someone else, her ex reveal. I like her more as a character than I do Zoe. I don't mind Zoe as a character. I don't like Zoe with Ted. I like Stella with Ted. She just, you know, ran away with her ex. Favorite of Ted's exes, season 2 variant of Victoria, or season 1, I don't remember what season this is, let's be honest, this video's been taking forever. That's my favorite of his exes. I am saying a season 2 variant because I consider the later season to be a different version of her. This Victoria, I didn't talk about it in the timeline. This Victoria, remember, she ran away from Klaus at the wedding. She lets Klaus live with her and Ted. And Ted says he's cool with it because he wants to be a good guy and he feels bad for, you know, stealing Victoria away. But like, why would you ask Ted to do that? She also, this is the version where it's like revealed that she like kind of cheated on Ted with an emotional affair with the guy she was going to marry. And then like also she expects him to like propose right away, even though it's been a couple of years since they've seen each other and people do change in a couple of years. I don't like this version of Victoria. Love Buttercup Victoria. Obviously my number 1 for Ted is the mother. Honorable mention, she's not going to be on the ranking because she's not for real. We have the provocative pumpkin woman who did make it onto one of Robin's lists. All right, let's get into Robin's. We have Dawn. I would put Dawn between Stella and Zoe. Again, like he starts out and you're kind of like, really? This is the love interest? But like he kind of grows into it and you kind of like it. I like what he does for Robin as character development for her with the whole not moving to Chicago to stay here. For Dawn, he does leave her for the same job in Chicago. So, you know, he left, so he gets put by Stella. Next we have Nick. We are putting him towards the bottom because I forgot that he existed. I thought that it would kill me, but it didn't. Obviously, my number 1 for Robin is Barney because she doesn't really date anyone else of worth. She dates Ted around the same area. I don't like them together, but I like Ted as a character. They should not be together, hence why they're here. Number 1 is Barney for that. Speaking of Barney, let's rank his exes. I'm gonna put Nora a little bit above Dawn. I like her as a character. I never felt like she was serious. Like she was just there to date Barney. There's not like, oh, she's a serious character. Like her just fine. He could have ended up with Nora. I would have been happy. Quinn, on the other hand, I'm gonna put a bit lower. I like Quinn as a character. I like her and Barney's dynamic. There's this one moment where like he goes to kiss her and she turns and she does the wait for it. Love that. That's funny. That's a good use. I can't believe it took Quinn like 3 girlfriends in for someone to do that. Great. Love that. I don't mind her as a character. Actually, we're gonna move her up a little bit so she's not so much on par with frickin' Zoe. I don't mind her as a character. I just, again,
At that point, we already figure out that he's marrying Robin, so you're just kind of like, yeah, sure. Patrice gets an honorable mention for this. Wish that had been real, just to have explored it. I would not have rooted for it for that long, but again, move the character development along. And then obviously my number one for him is Robin. Robin does rank higher than Barney on this list, and you just have to deal with that. Again, I am here for Colby Smulders because Maria Hill, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Was she in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I had a video scripted for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so y'all want an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. timeline? Let's see what happens. This is my ranking. That's my timeline. And I leave town on Sunday. It is Friday as of recording. Am I gonna take all of these down and turn them into stickers now, or am I gonna deal with it when I get back to town? I have no idea.